Chapter 1259. Betrayal. That demonic Dao youth is your clone? Master Mu Feng slowly withdrew his sleeves as his indifferent gaze landed on Zhuowen. His gloomy voice slowly spread throughout the area. Yi Wuxin and Azura Lidi looked at Zhuowen in astonishment. They had clearly seen that demonic Dao youth had turned into a demonic eye and drilled into Zhuowen's forehead. Just as Master Mu Feng had said, that demonic Dao youth was very likely Zhuowen's clone. Zhuowen's cultivation is clearly only at the peak of the heavenly sovereign level. Yet, he actually possesses a demonic emperor clone. This is truly inconceivable. Yi Wuxin muttered in astonishment. Has this little bastard been treating us like monkeys all this time? Azura Lidi's expression was extremely ugly. He had suffered a great loss at the hands of that demonic Dao youth in the spiritual elixir hall. Therefore, he was extremely resentful towards that demonic Dao youth. Now that he knew that the demonic Dao avatar was actually Zhuowen's external incarnation, Azura Lidi immediately hated Zhuowen. Zhuowen slowly turned around and frowned as he looked at Master Mu Feng. He said in an indifferent voice, "You can say that. Didn't you say that you wouldn't force me to hand over the key? What do you mean by that?" Mu Feng sneered and said, "I indeed said that I wouldn't force you to do anything. However, you didn't know what was good for you and didn't show any mercy. You injured Bai Yu, Chen Haixin, and Tian Jueyar. Since you were the first to be unkind, you naturally can't blame me for being unjust." Zhuowen laughed and sneered, "I was the first to be unkind, so you're unjust. I'm afraid that you've already set up this restriction here, right? Don't you find it laughable that you're saying such words in front of me? No matter what you say, I'll give you a chance now. Hand over the key and I'll let you off. Since you've already fallen into such a situation, you have no other choice." Master Mu Feng said in an indifferent voice. Zhuowen frowned slightly as he stared at Mu Feng. However, his attention was quickly attracted by Bai Yu, who was not far away. "Bai Yu, what are you doing? Stop!" A furious voice rang out. Soon after, everyone was stunned to discover that Elder Huaxie, who was originally beside Bai Yu, had a furious expression on his face. He took a step forward and explosively retreated. His gaze was unprecedentedly grave. When everyone's gazes landed on Elder Huaxie's body, all of them gasped. This was because they realized that Elder Huaxie's right hand had disappeared at some unknown point in time. Instead, it was replaced by a glistening wound. Moreover, there was a dark black gas lingering around the wound. The wound emitted a nauseating stench. At that moment, Elder Huaxie's entire body was trembling. His face was pale, but his gaze was fixed on Bai Yu. At that moment, Bai Yu's body was surrounded by a strange black aura. His eyes were pitch black and revealed a look of greed. He stared fixedly at Elder Huaxie, his mouth smacking as if he was chewing on something. Elder Huaxie's expression turned even uglier when he heard the chewing sound. He knew that Bai Yu was not chewing on anything else but his arm. Senior brother Bai Yu, Jiang Ying, Lan Zhu, and the other three geniuses from the inner yard came to Elder Grey Pavilion's side. They frowned as they stared at Bai Yu, who was acting strangely. They were shocked. Bai Yu was too strange. He had torn off Elder Grey Pavilion's right arm and eaten it. Zhuowen, as well as Yi Wuxin and Azura Lidi, who were facing each other from a distance, were also attracted by the commotion. Immediately, they were stunned to discover the strange scene in front of them. The genius of the inner academy, Bai Yu, had actually taken advantage of Elder Huaxie's unpreparedness to tear off his right hand and eat it. This was really too strange. This white feather is strange. It seems to be possessed. Yi Wuxin frowned and whispered in surprise. Although Azura Lidi did not say anything, one could tell from his expression that his thoughts were similar to Yi Wuxin's. As for Zhuowen, his eyes narrowed as he stared at Bai Yu, who was shrouded in black qi. He knew why Bai Yu had become like this. Earlier, when he had retreated to the edge of the palace world, he had felt an ominous feeling. Soon after, he discovered a strand of black qi rushing in from outside the palace world. It instantly rushed towards his forehead. If he had not reacted quickly enough, the one who would have become like this would not be Bai Yu, but him. It's that strand of black qi again. Just what is it? Looking at Bai Yu, who had become extremely strange, Zhuoan became pensive. It was not the first time he had seen this strand of black qi. When Master Mu Feng had destroyed the soul destruction formation in the ravine, this strand of black qi had come out of the soul destruction formation. However, it had disappeared very quickly. Now that he had seen it again, it had appeared in this way. Bai Yu twisted his head. The sound of bones grinding rang out. Then, he revealed an evil smile. He stared at Elder Huaxie and laughed cruelly. Your reaction is fast enough. If you were a little slower, the right half of your body would have been devoured by me. Ha, the flesh of a peak 5th layer martial emperor is quite delicious. Elder Huaxie's face was filled with shock and anger. He shouted furiously, just what are you? Where is Bai Yu? Are you talking about the owner of this body? His sea of consciousness has long since been erased by me. He is now my puppet. Having said that, his gaze fell on Zhuoan, who was not far away. He laughed coldly. Originally, I wanted to take over this guy's body. However, this guy's reaction is quite fast. He actually dodged my attack. So, I reluctantly took over this body. Elder Huaxie's face was extremely ugly. From Bai Yu's words, he could tell that the real Bai Yu's consciousness had already been destroyed. There was something unknown in this body. Bai Yu slowly walked towards Elder Huaxie. His eyes were filled with greed. It was obvious that after tasting Elder Huaxie's flesh, he wanted to devour Elder Huaxie completely. Be my sacrifice. Help me return to my peak. I will let you enjoy supreme glory, Bai Yu said indifferently. Bai Yu spoke in an indifferent voice. Immediately, he took a step forward and endless black qi rushed out from his body. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Elder Huaxie. His right hand suddenly struck forward and a strange and powerful aura spread, causing Elder Huaxie's expression to change drastically. Star-plucking hand. Without saying a word, Elder Huaxie's remaining left hand suddenly struck out. Instantly, terrifying star energy was exposed. Countless stars descended from the void behind him. It was as if these falling stars were welcoming Elder Huaxie's terrifying attack. Amidst the countless stars, Elder Huaxie's left hand turned into a jade-like stone. It flickered with a jade-like luster. Moreover, his left hand swelled to a size of several hundred feet. Surrounded by stars, the huge arm blasted towards the sky and heavily struck Bai Yu. Bang! In the blink of an eye, the strange palm that was surrounded by black qi collided with the huge star-plucking hand. Immediately, an extremely terrifying explosion erupted between the two. An endless amount of explosive energy spread out from the two huge hands in the void, causing the surrounding space to collapse and shatter. Terrifying shockwaves spread out. Jiang Ying and the other three, who were originally standing behind Elder Huaxie, had a drastic change in their expressions. They took several steps back. Under the aftermath of the collision, the four of them involuntarily spat out mouthfuls of blood. Yi Wuxin and Azura Lidi, who were standing further away, were less affected. They only took a few steps back and solemnly stared at the two huge hands that had collided. Elder Huaxie was a powerful existence at the peak of the 5th-level Emperor realm. He was even more powerful than Yi Wuxin, who was a 4th-level demon emperor. But now, Bai Yu, who had been possessed by an unknown creature, was actually able to match Elder Huaxie. This naturally caused the two of them to be extremely shocked. Get lost! Elder Huaxie roared. He took out a huge saber from his sleeve. The saber's handle was extremely lifelike. Moreover, there were countless shadows of ferocious tigers on the saber's surface. Tiger roars resounded from the saber as if it contained countless ferocious tigers. Tiger head saber descending saber. Jiang Ying and the other three looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock when they saw the huge saber that Elder Huaxie had taken out. They naturally knew that the huge saber was Elder Huaxie's natal emperor weapon. It was also a powerful middle-level emperor weapon. Its power was extremely terrifying. With the descending saber in my hand, I shall destroy all demons in the world. Elder Huaxie waved his sleeve, and the large blade between his thumb and index finger shot out. It grew to a size of nearly 100 feet. The huge star-plucking hand that was hovering in the air suddenly reached out and grabbed the large blade between his thumb and index finger. Soon after, it slashed out. Instantly, countless images of ferocious tigers appeared in the air. Every one of them bared their fangs and brandished their claws. Break. The moment the countless shadows of ferocious tigers appeared, the power of the star-picking hand increased by several times. It immediately suppressed the huge hand that was surrounded by black gas. There were even signs of cracks appearing on the surface of the huge hand. Baiyu took a few steps back. There was a trace of astonishment in his eyes. Elder Huaxie was very powerful. He was actually able to suppress his attack. Deng! 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 Baiyu took a few steps back again under the suppression of the huge saber and the star-picking hand. The huge hand that was surrounded by black gas was on the verge of collapse. It looked like it would shatter at any moment. So it's just a paper tiger. It looks good, but it's useless. Yi Wuxin, Azura Lidi, and the others didn't care too much about Baiyu being suppressed by Elder Huaxie. They originally thought that the unknown creature that had taken over Baiyu's body would be extremely powerful. However, it seemed like they had thought too much. Die. Chapter 1260. Profound Scheming. Elder Huaxie suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His originally soaring aura immediately became sluggish. The imposing star-picking hand, which was wielding a large blade, directly froze in mid-air. The luster on its surface had also become much dimmer. Elder Huaxie blankly stared at the transparent halberd on his chest. His pupils shrunk to the size of needles, while his eyes were filled with disbelief. After spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, Elder Huaxie muttered in a somewhat muffled voice, "Mental energy. Master Mu Feng." As he spoke, Elder Huaxie slowly turned around. His gaze was fixed on Master Mu Feng, who was standing not too far away with a smile on his face. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This unforeseen event had completely attracted everyone's attention. When everyone's gazes landed on the mental energy halberd on Elder Hun Xie's chest, the surrounding atmosphere froze. Soon after, their gazes landed on Grandmaster Mu Feng's body. "Huaxie, I actually did not want to personally take action. However, your strength is really too strong. With your peak 5th level Emperor cultivation, you are sufficiently difficult to deal with among this batch of practitioners. Additionally, you want to deal with this lord in front of me. Therefore, I have no choice but to take action." Mu Feng's indifferent voice resounded across the entire space. From the beginning, there was not much change in his eyes. They were cold, emotionless, and expressionless. Lord, Elder Huaxie's pupils shrunk. This Mu Feng had actually addressed the unknown creature that had taken over Baiyu as lord. Clearly, Mu Feng was acquainted with that unknown creature. Bang! Nearby, Baiyu revealed a ferocious smile from the corners of his mouth. Taking a step forward, a frightening power rushed out and smashed into the star-plucking hand that was holding the large saber that was suspended in the air. The latter was directly shattered into countless pieces, while Baiyu instantly arrived in front of Elder Huaxie. A fist suddenly smashed into the latter's chest. Ugh! Elder Huaxie spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and directly fell from mid-air. He heavily smashed onto the ground. Baiyu did not show any mercy after gaining the upper hand. 1,000-pound weight suddenly smashed onto Elder Huaxie's body, causing the latter's injuries to worsen. Soon after, Baiyu stepped on him. "Master Mu Feng, what is the meaning of this?" Elder Huaxie is an elder of the Inner Academy. You. Moyan and Bai Yang's pupils shrunk. They involuntarily took a step forward. Their auras erupted as they attempted to rescue Elder Huaxie, who was being stepped on by Baiyu. Mu Feng looked indifferently at Moyan and Bai Yang, who were rushing over, before forming a seal with his right hand. In an instant, the expression on Moyan and Bai Yang's faces drastically changed. In the next instant, black chains started to appear on the surface of their bodies. The surface of these black chains were filled with annihilation power. This annihilation power completely sealed the power within Moyan and Bai Yang's body. Bang! Moyan and Bai Yang violently fell to the ground. Their expressions became extremely ugly as they looked at the black chains on their bodies. He was extremely familiar with this destructive energy. It was the aura of the origin crystal that Mu Feng had used to set up the 10-direction annihilation formation. Of what? Of my. The moment Moyan and Bai Yang fell, Yi Wuxin, Azura Lidi, Chen Haishan, and Tian Juia had the exact same annihilation chains as Moyan and Bai Yang, binding them firmly, making them unable to move at all. The origin crystal of the 10 Directions Annihilation Formation? Yi Wuxin's demonic energy surged as he tried to break free from the chains. However, he was dismayed to find that the destructive power contained in the chains was too strong, making it difficult for him to break free. Even Yi Wuxin was unable to break free, let alone Azura Li Di, Chen Haishan, and Tian Juia. After struggling for a while, the three of them completely gave up resisting. They knew that with their current strength, it was basically impossible for them to break free from the chains that contained destruction. Father. Yi Yuqing came to Yi Wuxin's side, her eyes full of resentment. Yuqing, leave quickly. It's not good to stay here. Yi Wuxin anxiously transmitted to Yi Yuqing. Yi Yuqing's eyes flickered. He also understood that the current situation was not good. However, Yi Wuxin was his father after all. He was hesitant to abandon Yi Wuxin and escape alone. Escape? Why don't you just stay here and become my nutrients? Bai Yu laughed and stepped out. In an instant, he arrived beside Yi Yuqing. His right hand, which was surrounded by rolling black gas, reached out like a ghost claw. Wherever it passed, there was the sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling. Retreat. Yi Yuqing's expression drastically changed as he retreated. However, his speed was still slower than Bai Yu. Not long after he retreated, he was caught by the strange right hand. Get lost. Yi Yuqing's demonic energy surged as he tried to break free from Bai Yu's right hand. However, his demonic energy was like a drop in the bucket compared to Bai Yu's power. He was unable to break free from Bai Yu's right hand. Catcher. A cruel smile appeared on Bai Yu's face. His right hand suddenly exerted force. Instantly, Yi Yuqing's right hand was broken. Then, his other hand reached out and broke Yi Yuqing's other hand as well. His method was extremely cruel. Yi Yuqing let out a blood-curdling scream. His forehead was covered with cold sweat. His hands drooped down powerlessly as he stared at Bai Yu with eyes full of fear. A demon emperor whose true form is the jade-scaled snake. It's a pity that your bloodline is not very pure. You should be a bastard. It's a pity that you did not inherit the powerful bloodline of the jade-scaled snake. However, it's enough to be my snack. Bai Yu muttered to himself. His right hand suddenly clasped onto Yi Yuqing's head. A strange black gas spread out and blasted into Yi Yuqing's body. Suddenly, Yi Yuqing let out a blood-curdling scream. His face was covered with a strange green and black color. The strange black gas spread out and enveloped Yi Yuqing. Soon, Yi Yuqing's figure was drowned by the black gas. Absorb, Bai Yu said indifferently. Suddenly, the black gas in front of him was absorbed into his body. Yi Yuqing's figure seemed to have evaporated from the world and disappeared before everyone's eyes. Needless to say, Yi Yuqing should have been absorbed into Bai Yu's body. Gulp. Looking at the strange scene in front of them, everyone's throat unconsciously trembled. What exactly was the creature in Bai Yu's body? Yi Yuqing was a demon emperor. Although he was only a first-layer demon emperor, he was still swallowed by Bai Yu. Everyone could not accept it. Bastard. You dare to kill my son? Yi Wuxin was stunned for a moment. Soon after, he let out a roar. He struggled madly. However, because the power of the annihilation chain was too strong, Yi Wuxin could only crawl slowly toward Bai Yu like a worm. Old man, it's your turn soon. Why are you in such a hurry? Bai Yu sneered and kicked Yi Wuxin more than 10 meters away. The latter spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and dispirited. After kicking Yi Wuxin away, Bai Yu did not stop. He directly shot towards Jiang Ying and the other 3 geniuses of the inner court and swallowed them all in the same way. Zhuowen, who stood at the edge of the restriction, silently watched this scene. A chill rose in his heart. Just what was that strand of black gas? Zhuowen was extremely puzzled. At the same time, he felt a sliver of fear. After swallowing Jiang Ying and the other 3, Bai Yu's gaze landed on Zhuowen and the Grand Demon Lord nearby. A mocking smile appeared on his face. Zhuowen's face immediately sank when he sensed Bai Yu's gaze. Sir. Zhuowen possesses the complete river diagram formation. It's extremely important to us, Mu Feng suddenly said when he sensed the greed in Bai Yu's eyes. Oh. It's actually the complete river diagram formation? Bai Yu was stunned. He glanced at Zhuowen a little longer before chuckling. Then I'll devour the old guy beside you. Keek. Bai Yu cackled and directly shot towards the Grand Demon Lord beside Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen was already prepared. He directly summoned the Yuan Qi Tower and sucked the Grand Demon Lord into it. Afterwards, he tossed the tower into his spirit ring and silently stared at Bai Yu. You brat, Bai Yu paused. Clearly, he had not expected Zhuowen to directly suck the Grand Demon Lord into the Yuan Qi Tower. As a result, he did not know whether to advance or retreat for a moment. At this moment, Zhuowen also felt rather fearful. Whether it was the unknown creature before him or Master Mu Feng, it really was rather difficult for him to deal with them with his current strength. However, from what Master Mu Feng had said earlier, he knew that the unknown creature seemed to require the complete river diagram formation on him. No wonder Master Mu Feng wanted me to cultivate the river diagram formation back then. Was it for today? Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he thought uncertainly. Swoosh. Mu Feng took a step forward and calmly stared at Zhuowen. Zhuowen, you've seen the current situation. You have also seen the current situation. Although you have a third Heaven Demon Emperor clone, it is simply a fool's dream if you want to contend against me and my lord. I will give you a choice, and I will spare your life. Spare my life? Are you that kind? Zhuowen sneered. Mu Feng had finally revealed his true face. However, he was curious as to what the unknown creature that had possessed Bai Yu was and why Mu Feng had called that fellow master. Also, Zhuowen was certain that the black qi that had come out of the soul-extinguishing formation back then was the black qi that had possessed Bai Yu. Mu Feng had probably lured everyone to the ravine and borrowed the strength of the 10 mid-level martial emperors to destroy the soul-extinguishing formation back then for a reason. All of this was probably for the sake of releasing that black qi, which was the master that Mu Feng had mentioned. Moreover, Master Mu Feng had tampered with the 10 yuan crystals of the 10-direction destruction formation. The destructive power within could be used to imprison the 10 mid-level martial emperors at a critical moment, making them completely at the mercy of others. Thinking back to everything that had happened earlier, Zhuowen suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He realized that from the moment they had entered the monarch tomb, Mu Feng had already schemed against everyone. However, what was Mu Feng's motive? Chapter 1261. Predicament. Haha. There is naturally a condition for sparing your life. That is, you must become my servant and obey my every command. Mu Feng said in an indifferent voice. Zhuowen sneered, I'm really sorry. I, Zhuowen, would rather die than lose my freedom, let alone become your servant. Mu Feng frowned slightly. Clearly, he was somewhat astonished by Zhuowen's unyielding character. However, he did not dare to kill Zhuowen. After all, the latter possessed the complete river diagram array. This item was far too useful to him. Therefore, he would not let Zhuowen die unless he had no other choice. Heh. This brat is itching for a beating. Let me properly teach him a lesson. I guarantee that he will be obedient. Mu Feng was about to say something when Bai Yu, who was beside him, laughed strangely. His eyes were filled with ridicule as he looked at Zhuowen. Since Sir intends to personally teach this Zhuowen a lesson, this subordinate naturally has no objections. Mu Feng nodded. Soon after, he took a step back and landed behind Bai Yu. There was no strange expression in his eyes. As Bai Yu slowly walked towards Zhuowen, Elder Huaxie, Moyan, Bai Yang, Yi Wuxin, Azura Lidi and the rest, who were imprisoned on the spot, glared furiously at Mu Feng. Among them, Elder Huaxie coughed and asked in a deep voice, Mu Feng, why are you doing this? Elder Huaxie's injuries were extremely serious. His right arm had been swallowed by Bai Yu, while his chest had been pierced by Mu Feng's mental energy halberd, causing nearly fatal injuries. If not for the fact that he was a peak 5th level Emperor expert with an extremely powerful life force source within his body, it was likely that he would have already died. Moyan and Bai Yang also had complicated expressions as they said, "Grandmaster Mu Feng, you've been in our outer academy for dozens of years. You've also made many contributions to the outer academy. Why are you doing such a foolish thing today?" Mu Feng suddenly started to laugh. He glanced at Bai Yang and Mo Yang in a somewhat laughable manner. A pitiful expression was present within his eyes as he said, "Bai Yang, I have to say that you're truly somewhat muddle-headed. I can clearly tell you that my main objective for entering your outer academy was this Emperor's tomb. Now that the Emperor's tomb has been opened, my objective has been achieved. Also, don't treat me as someone from your Joshin Academy, because I am one of the 10 Azure Dragon Envoys of the Blue Dragon Hall, Maple Azure Dragon Envoy. The goal of the Blue Dragon Hall's Azure Dragon Envoy is the Emperor's tomb in the Sea of Bitterness." Moyan and Bai Yang were startled. Or it could be said that they did not dare to believe Mu Feng's words. Mu Feng had stayed in the outer court for nearly 100 years, and had contributed a lot to the outer court. Therefore, everyone in the outer court was filled with reverence and gratitude towards Mu Feng. Even Dean Mo Yang and Bai Yang had such feelings in their hearts. However, Mu Feng's words had completely caused Moyan and Bai Yang's mood to sink to the bottom. Mu Feng had entered the outer court for nearly 100 years, and his main objective was actually the Emperor's tomb in the Sea of Bitterness. It was likely that the contributions he had made to the outer court in the past were to obtain the trust of Moyan and Bai Yang, as well as the outer court. "Of course, I will also destroy your outer court while I'm at it. Once we get out of the Sea of Bitterness, your excellent God Island will no longer need to exist. There's also the 20% Ice Flame Sacred Symbol's source energy within the Yuan Qi Tower. I will definitely obtain that thing." At this moment, Mo Yang, Bai Yang and the others had already become fish on the chopping board. Mu Feng did not conceal anything and directly revealed all of his objectives. That was because, from his point of view, everything was within his control. By revealing all of this, Mo Yang, Bai Yang and the others would not be able to do anything to him. "Bastard!" Moyan and Bai Yang cursed in a low voice. At the same time, they recalled the sound transmission Zhuowen had sent to them. At that time, Zhuowen had already suspected that Mu Feng might have ill intentions. However, Moyan and Bai Yang did not take it to heart. In fact, due to Zhuowen's suspicion, they felt somewhat unhappy in their hearts. However, after Mu Feng had revealed his true colors, a sliver of guilt rose in their hearts. If they had known earlier, they would have listened to Zhuowen's suggestion. Perhaps, they would not have ended up in such a situation. When he thought of Zhuowen, his gaze landed on Bai Yu and Zhuowen, who were not far away. In his heart, he hoped that Zhuowen would be able to escape from the evil clutches of Bai Yu and Mu Feng. "Damn it! Mu Feng, you've been scheming against us since the beginning? Using us as tools?" Yi Wuxin crazily roared. Mu Feng smiled slightly and said, "What else do you think? Yi Wuxin, I still admire you. In the past, you've always been the first to stand up for me. You've even become my lackey for a period of time. From the looks of it, you should be very suitable to become my lackey. If you submit to me, I can consider sparing your life." "Bullshit. Don't even think about it," Yi Wuxin roared. The death of Yi Yuqing was a huge blow to him. Right now, he was like a mad dog that had lost all reason. He wished that Grandmaster Mu Feng would die. However, it was a pity that this was only his wishful thinking. Not to mention killing Mu Feng, the current him did not even have the qualifications to touch Mu Feng. "If you don't want to be my lackey, then forget it. When the time comes, you can properly accompany your son." Mu Feng coldly laughed. He no longer paid attention to Yi Wuxin, who had already lost all reason. Instead, his gaze landed on Zhuowen and Bai Yu. "Brat." Bai Yu's current strength should be around the 5th level of the Martial Emperor realm. Furthermore, his battle prowess is even stronger than ordinary 5th-level martial emperors. "You should be careful." Xiao Hei's solemn voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind, causing him to nod his head. Although Zhuowen was rather fearful of this unknown life form in front of him, he was not overly fearful of it. What he was most fearful of was Mu Feng. Mu Feng was an Arcana Heavenly Master, and not an ordinary one at that. In addition, he had many tricks up his sleeve. Even if he used all his tricks, It was unlikely that he would be Mu Feng's opponent. Of course, Zhuowen had also heard Mu Feng's words just now. Mu Feng had admitted that he was one of the 10 great Azure Dragon envoys of the Blue Dragon Hall, Mu Feng. At the same time, he also thought of the mysterious Arcana Heavenly Master from the Azure Xian Empire. He could not help but blurt out, "Are you the blue-robed Arcana Heavenly Master from the Azure Xian Empire?" Mu Feng was taken aback. Soon after, he smiled and said, "You're very smart. That blue-robed Arcana Heavenly Master is me. Previously, I said that we would meet again. Haven't we met again?" Zhuowen's face darkened as he coldly said, "You've really hidden yourself well. What's your purpose in entering the Emperor's tomb this time? Also, what exactly is this fellow? Hee. It's best that you don't know my purpose. However, don't you think that you're being a little too rude by speaking to my lord in such a manner?" Mu Feng coldly laughed. Boom. At this moment, Baiyu also made his move. His expression was somewhat cold as he said indifferently, "You dare to call me this fellow in front of me? I think you're tired of living. Although I can't kill you, I can still cripple you." Feeling the terrifying killing intent from Baiyu, Zhuowen's face darkened. Instantly, a demonic eye appeared in the middle of his brows. His entire body transformed into a demonic body. At this moment, the demonic body formed by fusing his human body with the demonic eye was even more terrifying than a demonic avatar. After all, the combination of two bodies was naturally much stronger than a single avatar. Morning Treasure Seal. Zhuowen formed a seal with his right hand. Instantly, a huge morning character appeared in the void. A sorrowful aura gushed out. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on Baiyu's body, causing his strength to show signs of weakening. 7 Emotions Treasure Seal. Baiyu slightly knitted his brows. With a cold snort, a strange black aura burst out. Instantly, the sorrowful aura was dispelled by him. His originally suppressed strength was restored once again. Furthermore, it was even stronger than before as it continued to shoot towards Zhuowen. Oh! The Morning Treasure Seal is actually unable to suppress it. Looking at Baiyu, who was completely unaffected, Zhuowen slightly knitted his brows. Soon after, he changed his seal once again. He released the Love Treasure Seal and the Fury Treasure Seal in succession. The 2 words Love and Fury appeared in the void. These 2 words revolved around Zhuowen's body, greatly increasing the strength of his entire body, causing his strength to rise to another level. Kill. After using the 2 amplification treasures, Zhuowen pulled out the slaughtering devil blade and rushed towards Baiyu without any fear. Bang bang bang. The 2 instantly collided. Surging demonic aura and the strange black aura intertwined with each other. Frightening might radiated in all directions, causing the entire palace world to tremble. Oh! The strength of Zhuowen's demonic body is much stronger than before. Is it because it has fused with his original body? Is it because of the Fury Treasure Seal and the Love Treasure Seal? Staring at the soul-stirring battle in the sky, Mu Feng's eyes sparkled as he muttered in a somewhat astonished manner. Similarly, Mo Yang, Bai Yang, Elder Huaxie, Yi Wuxin and the rest of the 6 people who were tied up by Mu Feng were also watching this battle. Hope and hope were present in their eyes, as they hoped that Zhuowen would be able to create a miracle and defeat Baiyu and Mu Feng to rescue them. Naturally, they also knew that such hope was extremely unrealistic. Without talking about Mu Feng, just Baiyu, who was possessed by an unknown life form, would not be so easy to defeat. Life Destruction. Chaotic Mundane World. Life Abstinence Seal. Floating in the sky, Zhuowen's hair fluttered wildly as demonic clouds blotted the skies. With a twist of his wrist, he unleashed the first 3 moves of the slaughtering oath-breaking blade technique in a single breath. In the next instant, the void split apart, as a frightening gigantic blade shadow appeared. A mundane world concept pervaded the surroundings of the blade shadow. This mundane world concept was sufficient to cause any person with a weak will to fall into the mundane world. After the blade shadow appeared, the 2 large words abstinence and seal appeared. As these 2 words appeared, they sealed the surrounding space in a radius of several dozen feet. Even the air was sealed, causing it to be unable to move. Baiyu's expression turned slightly sluggish. Under the influence of the life abstinence seal, His body came to a standstill in the air. At the same time, the mundane world concept followed closely behind, causing his eyes to turn blurry. Finally, the gigantic blade shadow formed by the life destruction seal came flying over. The frightening blade shadow appeared to be able to split the heavens and earth apart, as it instantly pierced through Bayu's forehead. Puff! In an instant, Bayu did not even have the chance to let out a snort before his entire body exploded into a bloody mist under the frightening combined attack of the three great moves. Blood rained down from the sky, seemingly forming a blood-red pool on the ground, causing it to appear extremely strange and frightening. Chapter 1262. Sacrifice. The instant Bayu's body crumbled, a wisp of black chi shot out from within his body. A flustered and exasperated voice was emitted from the black chi. Bastard, you actually destroyed the physical body that I had just snatched. You deserve to die. The voice of the black chi was extremely malevolent and evil. Through the wisp of black chi, Zhuowen was able to see a strange human figure within the black chi. Is it really the unknown life form that appeared in the black cloud above the gorge? Zhuowen's gaze hardened as he muttered to himself in a low and deep voice. Do you, who have lost your physical body, have the qualifications to say that I deserve to die? Zhuowen replied in an indifferent manner. Taking a step forward, frightening demonic chi descended from the sky like a dark cloud, appearing extremely frightening. When the originally hooting black chi saw Zhuowen rushing over without a second word, its voice immediately turned sluggish. With a sharp hiss, it immediately fled towards the back. However, Zhuowen was like a maggot attached to a bone, tightly sticking to the wisp of black chi, causing the black chi to involuntarily curse out loud. However, just as Zhuowen was about to approach the wisp of black chi, a frightening mental energy blocked in front of Zhuowen like a city wall, causing Zhuowen's forward momentum to come to a halt. Slowly turning his head, Zhuowen's gaze was eerily cold as he stared at Grandmaster Mu Feng, who was a short distance away. Without saying anything, he immediately retreated. The fighting strength displayed by the combination of a human body and a demonic body was indeed frightening. However, it was still insufficient in the face of Grandmaster Mu Feng. Therefore, he immediately retreated. Swoosh! The black chi retreated behind Grandmaster Mu Feng and coldly said, Mu Feng, capture this brat for me. The physical body that I had just chosen was actually destroyed by this brat. Truly hateful. Grandmaster Mu Feng nodded his head and replied, Rest assured, Grandmaster. This Zhuowen will not be able to escape. However, I hope that Grandmaster will not forget about the matter that you have promised me. Don't worry, I'll tell you where that old fart is. As long as you help me recover, I'll immediately snatch that old fart's inheritance for you, the black gas said calmly. Hearing his words, Mu Feng nodded his head. With a wave of his sleeve, countless mental energy storms rushed out from his body. With a momentum that could topple mountains and overturn seas, they rushed towards Zhuowen. At the same time, Mu Feng formed a seal with both of his hands, before 9 green yuan crystals shot out from his body. Dazzling green light rose, as the 9 yuan crystals arranged themselves in a peculiar pattern and trajectory, before finally transforming into a gigantic green python. Zhuowen's gaze was rather gloomy as he looked at the countless green pythons rushing over from the spiritual storm. His slaughtering demonic blade suddenly blasted out, and billowing demonic aura surged out. In an instant, he had used the 3 great moves, destruction of life, chaotic mortal dust, and birth control. However, to Zhuowen's astonishment, the 3 moves released together were completely unable to do anything to the giant green python surrounded by countless spiritual storms. Bang! The giant green python bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Opening its bloody mouth, waves of fishy stench swept out, causing people to feel nauseous. Looking at the giant green python that was just inches away from him, Zhuowen swung his hand out. Countless blade lights shot out, appearing to blossom into blood-colored flowers in the void, blossoming with a blood-colored brilliance. Bang bang bang! The giant green python smashed against the blade lights, causing explosive sounds to erupt. Zhuowen's face slightly contorted, as he felt that he wasn't facing a giant python at this moment. Instead, he felt that he wasn't facing a giant python, but an insurmountable mountain. The heavy pressure that came crushing down caused his right hand to feel numb, while the webbing between his thumb and forefinger seemed to have split apart. Ultimate everlasting sword formations, sword fire mystery. Upon sensing the frightening might of the giant green python, Zhuowen did not hesitate to unleash his ultimate everlasting sword formation. In an instant, countless sword lights transformed into flames that blotted the skies. Descending from the horizon, they smashed against the giant green python's body. Roar! With a roar, the giant green python swung its gigantic tail. In an instant, the countless sword fire in the surroundings were extinguished by it. At the same time, it swung its gigantic tail once again, heavily smashing against Zhuowen's body. This caused Zhuowen's face to contort greatly. Raising his demonic slaughtering blade, he blocked in front of him. Puff! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Zhuowen continuously retreated. His right hand, which was holding onto the demonic slaughtering blade, was trembling slightly. The webbing between his thumb and forefinger had split open, causing cherry-red blood to flow out. It's useless. In front of an arcane heavenly master, a triple demon emperor is simply not enough. Mu Feng spoke out in an indifferent tone, before waving his sleeve. Instantly, the giant green python shot out once again, wrapping itself around Zhuowen. The gigantic body of the snake contained boundless might, causing Zhuowen, who had been entangled, to be unable to break free. Right now, you still have some use. It's better for you to obediently stay by my side. Taking a step forward, Mu Feng formed a seal with his right hand, before tapping on the space between Zhuowen's eyebrows. In an instant, a sealing power gushed out, causing a strange imprint to appear between Zhuowen's eyebrows. Waves of sealing power spread out from the imprint, covering Zhuowen's entire body, causing him to be unable to move at all. After imprisoning Zhuowen, Mu Feng withdrew his sleeve, causing the giant green python to turn back into 9 yuan crystals, which he kept into his spiritual ring. Looking at the imprisoned Zhuowen, Mo Yang and Bai Yang let out a low sigh, while their eyes were filled with sadness. They knew that it would be difficult for their group to escape from Mu Feng's grasp. However, what exactly was Mu Feng going to do next? Mu Feng retrieved the fourth key from Zhuowen's body. Ignoring Zhuowen and the rest, he walked towards the fifth palace, minding his own business. My lord, can we begin? Mu Feng turned his head to look at the wisp of black aura and said, TSK. Since we've obtained the 4 keys, we can naturally begin. That old bastard has trapped this lord's body for thousands of years. It's time for him to be released. A pair of scarlet eyes appeared from within the black aura, while desire and greed blossomed within them. Upon hearing the words spoken by the black aura, the eyes of the imprisoned Zhuowen narrowed slightly. From the content of its words, it seemed that the fifth palace wasn't the resting palace of the strongest expert in the imperial region, but a sealed palace. What was sealed within was the true body of the black aura. Exactly what kind of existence was this black aura? Mu Feng nodded his head. With a wave of his hand, the 4 keys appeared before him, while a green glow wrapped around the 4 keys. Within the green glow, the 4 keys continued to move closer to each other, before finally fusing together, forming a strange-looking object. The appearance of this object appeared to be some kind of strange beast, yet also resembled some kind of insect. It was quite similar to the strange human figure that had appeared in the air above the gorge. Open it. Mu Feng received the object formed by the fusion of the 4 keys, before pressing it into the groove on the door of the fifth palace. Creak, creak. The sound of gears turning rang out, before the entire palace started to slowly tremble. Finally, the ancient door of the palace slowly opened. Bang! At the instant when the door of the palace opened, endless black aura erupted from within. In an instant, the originally resplendent and magnificent palace was completely covered by black aura. Furthermore, the black aura continued to increase, seemingly forming a gigantic black cloud in the air above the palace. Rumble. At the instant when the black cloud was formed, the fifth palace started to crumble and fall. Zhuowen was shocked to see a strange human figure that was several thousand feet in size continuously struggling within the black cloud, while continuously roaring and howling. Clang, clang, clang. Strange sounds continued to ring out. Only at this moment did Zhuowen notice that the gigantic human figure was actually wrapped in densely packed chains. The surface of the chains were covered with runes that flowed with brilliance. Every time the strange human figure moved, the runes on the surface of the chains would erupt with extremely blazing brilliance. Gigantic sealing power radiated out, causing the struggling human figure to tremble. "Brat, listen to my instructions later. Once the seal is undone, Mu Feng and the rest will be most relaxed. This Dragon Lord will help you break free from the seal. At that time, you should immediately flee. The further the better." All of a sudden, Xiao Hei, who had not spoken much in Lin Dong's mind, suddenly opened her mouth and spoke. Zhuowen gawked. Soon after, he asked in a somewhat puzzled manner, "Xiao Hei, exactly what is sealed inside?" Xiao Hei was silent for a moment, before suddenly sighing softly, "It's a type of calamity. I never imagined that such a thing would actually exist inside. No wonder the sovereign region was destroyed overnight. It's likely that it was all thanks to this thing. Brat, I'm afraid that the entire Bitter Sea is about to face an unprecedented calamity. In the face of such a calamity, the only thing you can do is to flee." "Calamity?" Zhuowen frowned slightly. Xiao Hei's explanation was ambiguous, and did not explain exactly what this strange human figure was. Could it be that there was something that was difficult to mention? There's still a great sealing formation within the seal. Looking at the strange human figure that was bound by countless chains, Mu Feng frowned slightly as he muttered to himself in astonishment. Back then, that old bastard was extremely cautious. He was simply not at ease with my main body. However, after so many years, the power of this great sealing formation has decreased greatly with the passage of time. If we use a blood sacrifice, we can break this great sealing formation, said the Black Qi indifferently. Mu Feng nodded. However, his gaze landed on Mo Yang, Bai Yang, Elder Huaxia, Yi Wuxin, Azura Lidi, Chen Haixin, and Tian Jueyar. He said, 6 mid-level emperors should be enough as sacrifices, right? The Black Qi nodded and said, "It's enough. Go and place the 6 of them in 6 different positions within the palace. I will command my main body to sacrifice them and break the sealing formation." As it spoke, the Black Qi transformed into a puff of green smoke, before shooting towards the black clouds above the palace. Very quickly, it disappeared within the black clouds. Mu Feng's eyes flickered as he shot an indifferent glance at Zhuowen, who was nearby. After discovering that the latter was obediently standing where he was, Mu Feng waved his sleeve. Mental energy gushed out, transforming into 6 large hands. Soon after, he took large strides towards the palace. "Bastard! Mu Feng, you're a human at the very least. You're actually in cahoots with a monster. Now, you're even treating him as a lackey. Do you have any sense of shame?" Yi Wuxin cursed loudly. The 6 of them were both shocked and furious. Chapter 1263. 9 Dragons Formation. All of you really speak a lot of nonsense. Mu Feng was expressionless. With a wave of his right hand, he took the lead and threw Chen Haixin and Tian Jueyar, who were cursing endlessly, into the black cloud in front of him. 2 miserable screams rang out, before Chen Haixin and Tian Jueyar were completely swallowed by the churning black cloud, without any signs of life left. Upon seeing this scene, the heart of Yi Wuxin, who was originally shouting the loudest, turned cold, before he completely stopped talking. His gaze was filled with fear as he stared at Mu Feng. He could clearly sense that the life auras of Chen Haixin and Tian Jueyar were gradually dissipating after being thrown into the black cloud. Bang! Not long after Chen Haixin and Tian Jueyar were swallowed by the black cloud, the aura of the entire black cloud had become much more frightening. The strange human figure hidden within the black cloud roared towards the sky. Its strength multiplied, and it actually began to struggle free of the black chains on its body. Clanging sounds continued to ring out, resounding across the entire area. Still not enough. Again, a roar rang out from within the black clouds. The owner of the roar was that strand of black gas. Mu Feng nodded his head. With a wave of his sleeve, he grabbed Azura standing ground and threw him into the black clouds without the slightest bit of politeness. Naturally, Azura standing ground started to curse loudly. However, it was completely useless, as Mu Feng simply ignored his curses. In an instant, the Azura standing ground was swallowed by the black cloud, causing miserable screams to continuously ring out. Zhuoan was even able to see the struggling body of the Azura standing ground within the black cloud. The strength of this Azura standing ground was much stronger than Chen Haixin and Tian Jueyar. Therefore, it was able to struggle for a long time within the black cloud, before it was refined by the black cloud. Clang! After the Azura standing ground's strength was refined, the black cloud immediately churned. The aura of the strange human figure was much more frightening than before. Immediately, the chains on its hands shattered. However, there were truly too many chains on its body. They were densely packed together, causing it to appear exceedingly complicated and strange. Not enough. Mu Feng muttered to himself. Immediately, his gaze landed on Yi Wuxin, causing the latter to feel a chill in his heart. He cried out in a low voice, "I'll be your dog. Spare my life." He was a demon monarch and had cultivated to the fourth heaven demon monarch realm. It could be said that he had gone through untold hardships. Naturally, he was unwilling to die like this. Moreover, he was going to become someone's sacrifice. Such a way of dying was too humiliating. However, Mu Feng laughed coldly and said, "I'm sorry, but it's too late for you to say that now. I don't need a lackey anymore. It's better for you to become my lord's nourishment." After saying that, Mu Feng ignored Yi Wuxin and gave him a kick. The latter was kicked straight into the black clouds, causing miserable shrieks to continuously ring out. Yi Wuxin's strength was above Azura Lidi. Therefore, the time required for this refinement was naturally longer than Azura Lidi. During this period of time, Elder Huaxie, whose aura was dispirited, shot a glance at Moyan and Bai Yang, who were also suffering from the same fate. With a soft sigh, he transmitted a message to them, causing Moyan and Bai Yang, whose eyes were drooping, to widen. Their gazes were filled with astonishment as they looked at Elder Huaxie. Finally, after the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Yi Wuxin was completely refined by the black cloud. He had also broken free from the chains on the legs of the strange human figure. However, the most important chains on his body were the ones around his head and waist. This was especially true for the chains around his head. They seemed to have firmly locked the neck of the strange human figure, causing him to have extreme difficulty even shaking his head. There are still 2 parts left. Mu Feng glanced indifferently at the human figure within the black cloud. Immediately, he turned his head around and stared at Moyan, Bai Yang and Elder Huaxie behind him. Parting his mouth, he smiled and said, "It's your turn. The strength that the 2 of you have sacrificed should be sufficient to allow the Lord to completely break free." Mu Feng waved his sleeve as he spoke. The powerful mental energy within his Niwen palace circulated, transforming into a large hand that grabbed towards Moyan, Bai Yang and Elder Huaxie. However, the instant the large mental energy hand approached the 2 of them, Elder Huaxie let out a loud cry. The aura on his body actually soared by several times at an extremely fast speed. Bang bang bang! In an instant, the annihilation strength that had been shackled on Elder Huaxie's body was actually destroyed by the strength that had suddenly erupted from him. At the same time, this strength spread out like an ocean, causing the large mental energy hand that had originally smashed over to suddenly stop in midair. Break! Elder Huaxie let out a low cry, causing the large mental energy hand to directly shatter. At the same time, Elder Huaxie extended his right hand and landed it on Moyan and Bai Yang, causing the annihilation strength that had been shackling on the latter's body to directly scatter. Bai Yang, hurry up and leave. Escape from this palace world first. Also, this is my identity badge. Bring it back to the inner academy and find the peak master of the sky capital peak, Old Man Tianju. Inform him of what has happened here. Old Man Tianju will not sit idly by. Elder Huaxie let out a low cry towards Moyan and Bai Yang. Moyan and Bai Yang looked at Elder Huaxie in front of them as a trace of sadness appeared in their eyes. They knew that Elder Huaxie should have used some kind of secret technique to forcefully increase his strength. Furthermore, although the aura on Elder Huaxie's body was extremely terrifying, they could sense that Elder Huaxie's life aura was gradually weakening. Very clearly, the price of this secret technique to increase one's strength should be one's life. Elder Huaxie was using his life as the price to forcefully increase his strength. Oh! How did this old fellow's strength increase so much all of a sudden? He's almost at the peak of the 6th level Emperor realm. After the giant mental energy hand was destroyed, Mu Feng retreated dozens of steps in the air. His eyes narrowed as he looked down at Elder Huaxie, whose aura had soared. His expression was somewhat ugly. However, he was able to guess that Elder Huaxie should have used some kind of secret technique that required a hefty price. That was why his aura had soared. Let's see where you can run to. The two of you won't be able to escape. Mu Feng quickly noticed Moyan and Bai Yang who were trying to escape. He couldn't help but roar furiously. He waved his sleeve and took out another 9 pieces of origin crystals. The terrifying green python from before appeared once again and rushed towards Moyan and Bai Yang. Boom! However, just as the giant cyan python was about to approach Moyan and Bai Yang, Elder Huaxie roared angrily and directly used the star-picking hand. Countless stars revolved around the huge star-picking hand, and an earth-shattering might came crushing down from the giant hand. At this moment, Elder Huaxie, who had forcefully pushed his aura to the peak of the 6th level Emperor realm, used the star-picking hand that was many times stronger than before. As he waved his hand casually, the surrounding space completely shattered like broken glass. Boom! The powerful star-picking hand grabbed the huge cyan python that was rushing towards Moyan and Bai Yang. Soon after, he fiercely threw the huge cyan python onto the ground. A muffled trembling sound accompanied by the python's wail resounded across the flat ground. Swoosh! Moyan and Bai Yang only turned their heads to take a glance before they continued to rush towards the edge of the palace world. Zhuowen, let me help you release the seal on your body. Moyan and Bai Yang instantly arrived in front of Zhuowen. His right hand formed a sword finger and Yuan power erupted like a white sword radiance. He fiercely pointed it at Zhuowen's forehead. Bang! What caused Moyan and Bai Yang to be stunned was that the imprint in between Zhuowen's eyebrows actually emitted an extremely terrifying and powerful power that directly repelled his sword finger. Moyan and Bai Yang retreated a few steps and were somewhat stunned. Xiaohei, help me break the seal. The moment Moyan and Bai Yang were repelled, Zhuowen shouted in a low voice. Immediately, Xiaohei, who was in the depths of his sea of consciousness, suddenly waved its little claws. A terrifying black light swept out and with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas, it suddenly broke open the mark between Zhuowen's eyebrows. Dean, let's leave quickly. At the instant when he broke the seal, Zhuowen loudly shouted at the stunned Moyan and Bai Yang beside him. Then, he directly fled towards the edge of the palace world behind him. Moyan and Bai Yang quickly reacted and followed closely behind Zhuowen. Although they were extremely puzzled as to how Zhuowen was able to break the seal set up by Mu Feng, escaping with their lives was more important now. How could they care about such things? What? How did this Zhuowen break out of my imprisonment? At this moment, Mu Feng, who was originally facing Elder Huaxie, trembled. He looked at the back of Zhuowen, who had regained his freedom, with disbelief. I can't let that brat escape. Grandmaster Mu Feng coldly snorted. He took a step forward and gave up on Elder Huaxie in front of him as he chased after Zhuowen. Zhuowen possessed the complete river diagram array, which was related to his objective this time. It was also an extremely crucial item. He absolutely could not let Zhuowen escape. Mu Feng. It won't be that easy to chase after Bai Yang and Zhuowen. Elder Huaxie fiercely roared from behind. He pressed down with his right hand and the terrifying star-plucking palm descended from the sky. It rumbled as it pressed down on Mu Feng's back. At the same time, Elder Huaxie appeared in front of Mu Feng like a ghost and blocked his path. I think that you're courting death. Mu Feng, who had originally had a calm expression on his face, immediately turned malevolent, while his eyes were filled with towering rage. Zhuowen was far too important to him. However, this Elder Huaxie had chosen to block his path. How could he not be furious? In fact, it was even hard for him to maintain his calm expression. 9 Dragons Formation, Huaxie. Since you dare to block me, I'll let you die. Mu Feng roared out in anger. With a flick of his finger, countless specks of light shot out from his spiritual ring. If one were to observe them carefully, they would discover that these specks of light were, in fact, yuan crystals. A total of 99 yuan crystals shot out from his spiritual ring. In the air, they streaked through the air in a strange trajectory, before finally transforming into 9 gigantic dragons of gigantic sizes. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon roar resounded throughout the entire palace world. Amidst the rolling dragon roar, the huge palace world began to tremble violently. Bang! Under the suppression of the 9 giant dragons, the terrifying star-plucking palm was actually unable to endure for even a quarter of an hour under the 9 dragons formation, before it collapsed inch by inch. Puff! Elder Huaxie fiercely spat out a mouthful of blood, while his expression became dispirited and listless. Even his hair had started to turn white, making him appear as though he had aged by 50 years. Chapter 1264. Clamor Aowu. The 9 roaring dragons were like 9 whirlwinds as they shot explosively towards Zhuowen, Moyan, and Bai Yang, who were fleeing. They were as swift as lightning and extremely swift. Zhuowen, Mo Yang, and Bai Yang also felt the violent wind sweeping towards them from behind. Their expressions changed drastically. Run! Without saying anything, the two of them accelerated at the same time. In an instant, they rushed out of the palace world. The 9 dragons behind them naturally did not show any signs of weakness as they followed closely behind. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. Dragon roars filled the sky, causing the entire space to tremble. Dean, let's lead the 9 dragons formation towards the demon soldiers. On the way, Zhuowen suddenly said to Mo Yang and Bai Yang. Mo Yang and Bai Yang's expressions changed slightly as they said in a somewhat low voice, Zhuowen, aren't you seeking your own death by doing this? That group of demon soldiers is extremely terrifying. Moreover, they have a deep hatred for intruders like us. Aren't we walking right into their trap if we go over? That won't happen. Just watch me. Zhuowen smiled mysteriously. He took a step forward and actually headed towards the 1,000 demon soldiers that were still waiting outside the palace world. Seeing Zhuowen's actions, Mo Yang and Bai Yang frowned slightly. In the end, they could only sigh softly and follow behind Zhuowen. They had experienced the terror of the 9 dragons formation. With the speed displayed by the 9 dragons, it was only a matter of time before they caught up with the 2 of them. Therefore, they might as well follow Zhuowen and go crazy for once. Oh, it's that group of damned humans. They actually dare to come out. The 1,000 demon soldiers that were originally waiting outside the palace world immediately noticed Zhuowen, Mo Yang, and Bai Yang rushing over. Due to the existence of the restriction outside the palace world, the demon soldiers were completely unaware of everything that was happening inside. At the same time, they also noticed the 9 giant dragons not far behind Zhuowen, Moyan, and Bai Yang. Their expressions became vigilant as they could feel the terrifying aura emitted from the 9 giant dragons. Soon after, the numerous demon soldiers saw that Zhuowen, who was at the very front, had stopped when he was nearly 100 meters away from them. Soon after, he loudly shouted, "You bunch of shrimp soldiers and crab generals, come and chop this daddy if you have the guts. This daddy will stand here and take on several thousand of your demon soldiers by myself. If you have the guts, come and chop me. If you don't, scram." Whoosh. As soon as these words were spoken, the thousands of demon soldiers were in an uproar. This human was too arrogant. A mere human dared to provoke thousands of demon soldiers. Was he tired of living? F***ck, this human is too arrogant. I'm going to chop this bastard up. Bastard, this human simply doesn't put our honorable demon soldiers in his eyes. We must kill this brat. He's too arrogant. If I don't kill this human, I won't be a demon anymore. I'll take this human's surname. Sure enough, as soon as Zhuowen's words left his mouth, the thousands of demon soldiers became agitated. All the demon soldiers began to curse Zhuowen for boasting shamelessly. There were even some demon soldiers who wanted to rush up and kill Zhuowen. However, they were stopped by the leading female demon. The female demon coldly stared at Zhuowen. Soon after, she looked at the 9 giant dragons behind Zhuowen with extreme fear. She coldly said, Don't think that you can contend against us demon soldiers just because you obtained 9 giant dragons from the world of the palace. In my opinion, this idea of yours is extremely laughable. Zhuoan stood in the air with a victorious smile on his face. However, he was already cursing in his heart. What was this female demon talking about here for? Hurry up and get to work. The 9 dragons formation behind them was about to catch up. If the 9 dragons formation approached them, they would definitely deal with him, Moyan and Bai Yang. At that time, they would definitely be exposed. Zhuoan, the 9 dragons formation is only a kilometer away from us. If we don't escape now, it'll be too late. Moyan and Bai Yang arrived behind Zhuoan at this moment. They glanced behind them and promptly transmitted their voice to Zhuoan. Dean, don't worry. Right now, only these demon soldiers can help us get rid of the 9 dragons formation. Taking a deep breath, Zhuoan transmitted his voice back. Then, he continued to arrogantly shout at the thousands of demon soldiers in disdain, "Sure enough, you're a group of cowards. I'm standing here for you to kill, yet you don't even dare to come. Calling you cowards is an insult to the word coward." Zhuoan was extremely boastful and arrogant. In fact, he was extremely nervous in his heart. It should be known that there were thousands of demon soldiers in front of them and the powerful 9 dragons formation behind them. It could be said that there was a tiger in front and a wolf in the back. It was almost to the extent of being in a dilemma. If he couldn't make those demon soldiers face off against the 9 dragons formation, he, Moyan and Bai Yang would really be finished. Bastards, insignificant humans, how dare you boast so shamelessly? Children, kill them for me. We must dismember these 2 humans into 10,000 pieces. The leading female demon soldier couldn't listen anymore. The words that Zhuoan said were really too unpleasant. Even if her temper was very good, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to endure it. Moreover, as a member of the demon clan, her temper couldn't possibly be good. After being provoked by Zhuoan like this, she was extremely depressed. Without even thinking, she called the thousands of demon soldiers behind her and violently rushed towards Zhuoan. She wanted to give this arrogant and conceited brat an unforgettable lesson. Looking at the demon soldiers who were finally provoked by his arrogant words, Zhuoan wasn't alarmed. Instead, he rejoiced and continued to shout, "The 9 dragons behind me are called the 9 dragons formation. This formation is extremely powerful. When the time comes, it will teach you how to be a demon. If you have the guts, come and give it a try." After saying those words, Zhuoan brought Moyan and Bai Yang and hastily retreated. At this moment, the 9 dragons formation was only 500 meters away from Zhuoan and Bai Yang. With the speed of the 9 dragons formation, it would be able to arrive in front of Zhuoan in 2 breaths of time. At this moment, Zhuoan was extremely calm. He spread out his thoughts and silently calculated the distance between him and the thousands of demon soldiers and the 9 dragons formation. He was also adjusting the speed of his retreat at any time. The instant the thousands of demon soldiers and the 9 dragons formation arrived above him, Zhuoan exchanged glances with Moyan and Bai Yang. Then, he suddenly descended from the sky and his speed soared to the extreme. Rumble. The thousands of demon soldiers and the 9 dragons formation simply couldn't react in time. The 2 fiercely collided with each other. Immediately, an extremely terrifying shockwave erupted. The surrounding space collapsed and the entire space violently shook. As expected, it's a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. You can't even fight against our 9 dragons formation. You guys still dared to hoot in front of me. Don't you feel ashamed? Zhuoan laughed out loud and ridiculed them from 100 meters below. Bastard human. You want to stop us with a mere formation? Break for me. The female demon leader was extremely furious. She immediately began to command the thousands of demon soldiers. Monstrous waves surged out from the void. Then, the thousands of demon soldiers surged with all their demonic energy. Finally, they turned into a 1,000 feet large blue whale. This blue whale broke through the waves and suddenly opened its huge mouth. A high-pressure water pillar shot out from it and directly blasted towards the 9 dragons formation. Roar. The might of the high-pressure water pillar was extremely vast and powerful. When it smashed into the 9 dragons formation, it immediately caused the 9 dragons to continuously retreat. Moreover, numerous furious roars sounded. Subsequently, they once again resisted the high-pressure water pillar and approached the thousands of demonic soldiers step by step. Those crimson dragon eyes seemed to want to smash all of the thousands of demonic soldiers into smithereens. Boom! Boom! In an instant, the enormous blue whale and the 9 dragons formation clashed head-on. Every time the two of them collided, it would cause the surrounding space to be annihilated and shattered, creating many extremely deep black hole fragments. Extremely bright and resplendent brilliance erupted from the space, appearing just like fireworks in the horizon. It was extremely dazzling. The 9 dragons formation did not expect that the demon soldier would suddenly launch an attack against it. Involuntarily, it became furious. Not caring about chasing Zhuoan, it directly started to fight with the demon soldier. Go! We should take this opportunity to escape. Zhuo Wen, Mo Yang and Bai Yang glanced at each other as they watched the blue whale and the 9 dragons fighting intensely. Then, they stealthily fled in a certain direction. They had to escape from this mausoleum. This was not a place they could stay for long. Swoosh! Not long after Zhuoan, Mo Yang and Bai Yang left, Mu Feng also hurriedly rushed over from behind. However, when he saw the 9 dragons formation that was fighting against the blue whale formed by the demon soldier, his face immediately turned gloomy. He did not see any traces of Zhuoan, Mo Yang and Bai Yang. Did we let those two fellows escape? However, are they really able to escape? Mu Feng's eyes flickered. With a wave of his right hand, a wisp of black qi immediately appeared on his palm. A pair of blood-red eyes surfaced. At the same time, a low and deep voice was transmitted over. What's the matter? Sir, please seal the entrance of the entire tomb. Zhuoan, Mo Yang and Bai Yang have already escaped from the world of the palace. We cannot allow them to escape from the tomb. If not, it will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find them. Mu Feng spoke out in a respectful manner. The pair of blood-red eyes faintly flashed, as the low and deep voice was transmitted over once again. Relax, I will seal the entrance of the tomb. Without my permission, no one should even think about leaving the tomb. Furthermore, I need even more energy to escape. Bring Mo Yang and Bai Yang back to me. I need the energy from this sacrifice. As he spoke, the wisp of black qi slowly dissipated. Mu Feng's eyes flickered, while his expression was gloomy and uncertain. He did not expect that Elder Huaxie would use a secret technique to burn his life force in order to obtain a short period of power. From there, he would restrain him, allowing Zhuoan, Mo Yang and Bai Yang to take the opportunity to escape. Damned demon soldier, die for me. Mu Feng stared intently at the gigantic blue whale, as all of the gloominess in his heart was vented on the demon soldier. Being an arcane heavenly master, Mu Feng possessed an extremely large number of techniques. However, he did not reveal them when he was dealing with the demon soldier, and had those emperor-level experts work for him. However, at this moment, he needed to vent. Since he was venting, he would naturally not hold back. Go berserk for me, 9 dragons formation. Blood-red meridians appeared on the surface of their bodies, causing them to appear exceedingly malevolent and terrifying. Furthermore, the auras of the 9 giant dragons were much stronger than before. Puff. Chapter 1265. The Past Retreat. Seeing the giant whale being destroyed in an instant, the heart of the female Yarrow that was commanding over 1,000 demonic soldiers trembled. With a stern howl, she grabbed the remaining demonic soldiers and retreated explosively. Wave after wave surged out, instantly disappearing from the 9 dragons' array. Oh! They're really quick to escape. Mu Feng quietly stood on the 9 dragons' back. Looking at the remaining demonic soldiers that were rapidly retreating within the waves, he frowned slightly. However, he did not continue to give chase. The violent energy that had erupted from the 9 dragons' array had nearly crippled the 1,000 demonic soldiers. At the same time, the 9 dragons' array had entered a period of weakness. Mu Feng still understood the principle of not chasing a cornered enemy. With a wave of his right hand, Mu Feng immediately took out a bright and resplendent yellow ball from his spirit ring. With a sudden pinch, the ball exploded into countless yellow glowing dots. If one were to take a closer look, the true appearance of these yellow glowing dots was that of hummingbirds. They were extremely small, and if one did not take a closer look, one would not be able to see them at all. Search for the two of them. Inform me the moment you find them. With a wave of his sleeve, two figures appeared in the air. These two figures were Zhuowen, Mo Yang, and Bai Yang. After transmitting the images of the two of them, the countless yellow glowing dots shot out in all directions. Let's return to the world of the palace first. Looking at the countless yellow glowing dots that had disappeared, Mu Feng's eyes sparkled. Since the entrance to the tomb had been sealed, he was not worried that Zhuowen, Mo Yang, and Bai Yang would be able to escape. Additionally, with the investigation of these yellow glowing dots, finding the two of them was only a matter of time. Swoosh! At this moment, the world of the palace had already undergone a drastic change. The originally beautiful and magnificent small world was now filled with a strange black qi, appearing as though it was the end of the world. Arriving outside the world of the palace, Mu Feng looked at the scene of the churning black qi and frowned slightly. However, he did not step into the small world. Instead, he quietly stood in the air. Through the endless black qi, Mu Feng was able to see a gigantic figure that was continuously twisting and struggling. At the waist of the gigantic figure, there was an especially thick chain. Waves of strange rune energy revolved and sparkled within the chain, locking the gigantic figure in place, causing it to be completely unable to struggle free. Mu Feng, you're here. Have you caught Moyan, Bai Yang, and Zhuowen? Perhaps it had sensed Mu Feng, who was outside of the world, as its gigantic body came to a stop. A pair of blood-red eyes pierced through the black fog and landed on Mu Feng's body. Mu Feng shook his head and said, "Not yet." That Zhuowen is very cunning. He actually used demon soldiers to block my 9 dragons formation. That means you haven't caught him yet. The voice in the black qi was somewhat displeased, but it did not blame Mu Feng too much. Instead, it said in a low voice, "Mu Feng, you are an Arcana Heavenly Master and have a unique understanding of formations and restrictions. Can you break the last chain on my body?" Mu Feng's brows furrowed slightly as he said, "Sir, the restrictions on your body were set up by an Arcane Saint Master. I'm only an Arcane Heavenly Master. I'm afraid that I don't have enough strength to break through the restrictions set up by an Arcane Saint Master." After hundreds and thousands of years of erosion, the might of this formation is far from what it was in the past. Furthermore, this lord has relied on the power of the offerings to break through the majority of the chains. There's only one remaining. You might be able to break it. The voice in the black qi turned somewhat cold. Mu Feng's eyes sparkled as he said with a soft sigh, "Let me give it a try." As he said that, Mu Feng took a step forward and entered the black qi. Very quickly, he arrived at the chains that bound the gigantic figure. At this moment, Mu Feng was finally able to clearly see the true appearance of the gigantic black figure that was bound by the chains. This black figure was, in fact, an unknown life form that had appeared briefly in the air above the gorge. Its entire body was covered with a tough and durable carapace that was sparkling with light. Its insect-like head had 2 black antennae, while its body had 12 arms. It appeared exceptionally strange. This was the first time that Mu Feng had seen the true body of this unknown life form. His expression turned sluggish. However, this only lasted for a moment, before his gaze landed on the runes on the chains. He rapidly formed a few hand seals, before fiercely smashing them against the chains. In an instant, the sound of metal clashing rang out. Bang! A terrifying rebounding force surged out, causing Mu Feng to involuntarily take several steps back. His aura fluctuated slightly as he said in a deep voice, "Lord, this is after all a restriction set up by an Arcane Saint Master. Even if you've destroyed all that's left of it, it's still not something that an Arcane Saint Master like me can break through. Damn it. That old bastard is truly vicious. He actually placed such a vicious restriction on this lord's body. I need more energy to break through this final chain. Once I do, this lord will completely regain my freedom." The black shadow roared out. In an instant, the surging black aura within the entire palace world started to churn. In the next instant, strange human figures condensed from the black aura. These human figures were similar in shape to the black shadow. However, they weren't as large as the black shadow. They were roughly the height of an ordinary person, and were somewhat similar to the wisp of black aura from before. The densely packed black aura human figures covered the entire palace world, causing Mu Feng's scalp to turn numb. He knew that this lord before him was extremely powerful. However, he never imagined that he would be so powerful. There were over 10,000 human figures condensed from the black aura. Furthermore, each and every one of them possessed strength at the low-level martial emperor realm. This was an extremely terrifying force, one that caused even Mu Feng to feel apprehensive. Plunder all the energy for me. The entire tomb, even the entire emperor's tomb, and even the entire sea of bitterness. All of you, plunder all of them. This lord needs even more sacrifices and energy. Plunder everything that you can plunder. The deep voice of the black shadow slowly spread out. Roar. Those black human figures all roared out, before transforming into countless black auras. They rushed out of the palace world and flew in all directions. Looking at the countless black auras, Mu Feng revealed a look of dread. Although he had always addressed the black shadow as Lord, he didn't know exactly what this black shadow was. Ever since the Emperor's tomb was formed, it would appear once every 300 years. Every time it appeared, a large number of bitter sea cultivators would rush in. Even some wandering cultivators from the 9 Netherworld realm would enter the Emperor's tomb to explore. Those who were lucky would naturally obtain great rewards. Of course, the Emperor's tomb had opened many times. However, the inheritance of the Emperor's tomb's creator had never appeared. No one had obtained the inheritance of the Emperor's tomb's creator. In fact, no one even knew whether the Emperor's tomb's creator was alive or dead. However, the last time the Emperor's tomb opened, Mu Feng just happened to come out from the 9 Netherworld realms' dragon wasteland. When he came to the Bitter Sea, he entered the Emperor's tomb. Of course, his name back then wasn't Mu Feng. This Mu Feng was just an alias. With his strength as an Arcana Heavenly Master, he was naturally like a fish in water in the Emperor's tomb. He obtained many benefits. Moreover, he unintentionally obtained the incomplete river diagram array in one of the ruins of the Emperor's tomb. Furthermore, he received instructions from the Black Aura. It was also at that time that Mu Feng made a deal with the Black Aura. That was, when the Emperor's tomb opened again, Mu Feng had to release the Black Aura's main body. The Black Aura would help him obtain the inheritance of the Emperor's tomb's creator. As the Emperor's tomb's creator was also an Arcana Master, and a legendary Arcana Saint Master at that. His mental energy cultivation had already reached the pinnacle. Mu Feng believed that he was blessed by the heavens in the aspect of mental energy. However, even with his pride, he still felt that it was a little difficult to reach the level of an Arcana Saint Master. The fastest way to reach the level of an Arcana Saint Master was to obtain the inheritance of an Arcana Saint Master. The Emperor's tomb's creator was a powerful Arcana Saint Master. The Emperor's tomb was an extremely majestic building. Even Mu Feng, who was a heavenly master of Arcana arts, sighed in amazement at the sight of it. If one wanted to construct such a building, perhaps only an Arcana Saint Master with heaven-defying methods would be able to do so. Of course, other than his identity as an Arcana Saint Master, the Emperor's tomb's creator also cultivated the martial way. He was in existence at the half-saint realm. As the strongest person in the Imperial region, his reputation as a half-saint was much greater than his Arcana Saint Master title. This was also why many people only believed that the strongest person in the Imperial region only had the strength of a half-saint. In reality, this was a huge mistake. Reaching the half-saint realm in the martial way and the mental energy level of a Saint Master was an extremely terrifying and powerful realm. It was already comparable to saints. This was also the true reason why the forces in the Imperial region could rival those great forces in the 9th Netherworld realm. Anyone would be tempted by the inheritance of such a terrifying existence, let alone Mu Feng, who had yet to reach the level of an Arcana Saint Master. After coming out of the Emperor's tomb last time, Mu Feng had researched the damaged river diagram formation for over 100 years. He finally understood some of the ways to use it. However, He also understood the principle of treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. There were too many experts in the ninth netherworld realm, and there were even more people who knew what was good for them. Even if he was an Arcana Heavenly Master, he wasn't considered a powerful figure in the ninth netherworld realm. Because he had something like the river diagram formation on him, he gave up on returning to the ninth netherworld realm in the end. Instead, he settled down in the Divine Academy and carved the damaged river diagram formation on the 6th floor of the Arcana Tower. Originally, he only wanted to use the damaged river diagram formation to select outstanding Arcana disciples. Those who were selected by him were all his people, and they would be of great use to him in the future. However, Zhuo Wen had appeared out of nowhere and completed the river diagram spirit formation. Thus, at that moment, Mu Feng was truly excited. It was so much so that his attitude toward Zhuo Wen was different from others. This was because the Black Qi had once told him that the river diagram formation was closely related to the inheritance of the Emperor's Tomb's creator. However, he was afraid that Zhuo Wen would choose to destroy the river diagram formation and destroy it. After all, only Zhuo Wen had the complete river diagram formation. He didn't dare to make any mistakes. Chapter 1266. Lightning tribulation at the entrance of the tomb. The expressions of Zhuo Wen, Mo Yang, and Bai Yang became extremely unsightly because the two of them noticed that the entrance to the tomb had been sealed up at an unknown time. No matter how they attacked, they were unable to break open the entrance. The entrance to the tomb has probably been sealed by that unknown creature. With our strength, it is somewhat impossible to open the entrance. Moyan and Bai Yang spoke in a somewhat dejected manner. Zhuo Wen quietly stood before the entrance, his eyes flickering endlessly. This tomb was created by the strongest expert in the Imperial region. Naturally, it was incomparably tough. Once it was sealed, it was basically wishful thinking to break open with brute force. It was likely that even a high-level emperor would find it difficult to break open the sealed entrance, let alone Zhuo Wen, Moyan, and Bai Yang. Sigh. Looks like we won't be able to leave now. Zhuo Wen took a few steps back, his brows slightly knitted as he muttered in a low voice. Moyan and Bai Yang came to Zhuo Wen's side and said in a deep voice, "Since the entrance has been sealed, we shouldn't stay here for long. Mu Feng definitely knows that the entrance has been sealed. When the time comes, he will definitely come here. If we stay here for too long, we will definitely be tracked down by Mu Feng." Zhuo Wen nodded upon hearing this. He said, "Let's leave this place first and see if we can find a secluded place to avoid the limelight." As they spoke, the two of them left the entrance and began to search for a more secluded place. The two of them did not fly for too long. Soon after, they discovered an enormous wave rushing over from the distance. Within the wave were numerous demon soldiers, who were fleeing in panic and in an extremely miserable state. Oh, demon soldiers! Why are they in such a miserable state? Zhuo Wen, Moyan, and Bai Yang exchanged glances when they saw the miserable state of the demon soldiers in the wave. Astonishment was revealed in their eyes. However, the two of them quickly thought of Mu Feng. Earlier, the demon soldiers were fighting against the Nine Dragons formation. Only Mu Feng, who was controlling the Nine Dragons formation, could cause the demon soldiers to be in such a miserable state. There should have been over 1,000 demon soldiers, but now, there were only a few hundred left. Furthermore, most of them were injured. The strength that they could unleash was probably extremely limited. The face of the demoness leading the wave was somewhat pale. She had probably suffered some injuries as well. Since Zhuo Wen, Moyan, and Bai Yang had seen them, these demon soldiers naturally also saw them. Suddenly, these demon soldiers' eyes spat fire, especially the leading female demon. Her pair of water-blue eyes were almost burning with a ball of fire. They weren't stupid. From the moment Zhuo Wen cursed them for no reason to the sudden disappearance of these two human cultivators when they encountered the Nine Dragons array, they quickly connected the dots. These two cultivators must have used them as spears. The Nine Dragons array wasn't the aid of these two cultivators, but rather an enemy that was chasing after them. Now, they had unexpectedly blocked the Nine Dragons array for Zhuo Wen, Moyan, and Bai Yang by a freak combination of factors. In the end, they had suffered such heavy losses. All of this was caused by these two cunning humans. Bastard human, how dare you trick us? I'll tear you into pieces. The demoness shouted angrily. She stomped her foot and brought countless waves and demon soldiers towards Zhuowen, Moyan, and Bai Yang. Dean, you go and deal with the hundreds of injured soldiers. Leave this demoness to me, Zhuowen said to Moyan and Bai Yang. He took a step forward, and a demonic eye appeared on his forehead. He immediately transformed into a demonic body. Demonic chi surged out, and he took out the slaughtering demonic blade. His demonic might was monstrous, and it penetrated the heavens and the earth. The demoness was only a third-level demon sovereign. However, with the support of thousands of demon soldiers, she could gather the power of the demon soldiers and display a power that exceeded the fifth-level emperor realm. Therefore, Zhuowen and the others didn't dare to fight against her. But now, these demon soldiers were almost dead and injured under the 9 dragons array. They were like arrows at the end of their flight. The power that they could display was limited. Therefore, Zhuowen wasn't afraid at all. As for Moyan and Bai Yang, their cultivation was at the 5th-level emperor realm. Perhaps their battle strength couldn't be compared to Elder Huaxia, who was at the peak of the 5th-level emperor realm. However, they were on par with Yi Wuxin, who was at the 4th-level demon sovereign realm. It wouldn't be too difficult for them to deal with these exhausted demon soldiers. Boom! Seeing Zhuowen rushing over, a trace of viciousness flashed in the demoness' eyes. She waved her right hand, and the trident actually burst out with an extremely blazing light. Rolling tsunamis surged from the horizon, rushing over with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. Slash! The demonic slaughtering blade slashed out, and a terrifying blade light swept out like moonlight. Instantly, the monstrous wave was cut into 2, and Zhuowen took a step forward, instantly appearing in front of the demoness. Life destruction. At the moment when Zhuowen was close to the demoness, he used the first move of the slaughtering oath-breaking blade technique, life destruction. Under the slaughtering demon blade swing, a terrifying blade shadow stretched across the void like a bridge. The demoness narrowed her eyes and let out a shrill cry. She had not expected Zhuowen's combat strength to be so terrifying. Without any hesitation, she threw out the trident in her hand. The aura of the ocean circled around the trident, turning it into a huge water pillar that soared into the sky. Rumble. An ear-piercing explosion rang out as the water column collided with the blade shadow. However, Zhuowen remained expressionless as he took a step forward and swung his blade again. The might of the blade shadow in the sky was several times stronger than before. The water column suddenly collapsed, turning into countless splashes of water. The demoness spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Run! The demoness knew that with her strength, she was no match for the human in front of her. Therefore, the moment she flew backwards, she made a prompt decision to escape. You can't escape. Life preservation. Zhuowen murmured softly and swung his blade. Blade chi swept out and cracked the void. A sealing force filled the surroundings of the demoness. 2 big words appeared above her head, abstinence and preservation. The demoness, who was running away, stopped in her tracks as if time had stopped. Swoosh! The moment the demoness was frozen, Zhuowen took a step forward and arrived in front of the demoness. At the same time, Moyan and Bai Yang's battle had also ended. The remaining hundreds of demon soldiers were basically useless. Most of them were first heaven demon emperors and they were injured. Even if they joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for Moyan and Bai Yang, who were 5th heaven demon emperors. Moyan and Bai Yang came to Zhuowen's side and asked in astonishment, Zhuowen, aren't you going to kill this demoness? Zhuowen shook his head and said via voice transmission, this demoness is very useful to us. After all, this demoness has lived in this tomb for countless years. She definitely has a better understanding of the terrain than us. Since we want to avoid Mufeng and the others, we'll have to rely on this demoness to lead the way. Despicable human, what exactly do you want? The demoness said fiercely. Bring us to a secret place and I can spare your life. Zhuowen said indifferently. The demoness sneered and said, do you think I'm a coward? You've killed so many of my brothers and sisters. You want me to help you? No way. Hearing the demoness words, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed into a dangerous arc-killing intent was released from his pair of cold demonic eyes. He said coldly, "You're courting death." Oh! Just as Zhuowen was about to take action, the Ice Saint talisman on the back of his left hand suddenly reacted. Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he said in a low voice, "Is the little guy reacting?" Thinking of this, Zhuowen immediately released the profound soul ice butterfly from the Ice Saint talisman. As soon as the profound soul ice butterfly appeared, a terrifying cold chi violently swept out. It was bone-chilling and chilling. Why? As soon as the profound soul ice butterfly appeared, it directly flew towards the countless demon soldier corpses. A terrifying snowstorm lingered around the profound soul ice butterfly's body, causing the latter's figure to be faintly discernible. What is it doing? Moyan and Bai Yang asked in astonishment. It should be absorbing the demon yuan. Zhuowen replied in a low voice. Although the several hundred demon soldiers were completely annihilated by Moyan and Bai Yang, the demon yuan within their bodies was mostly intact. It was just that it was sealed by Moyan and Bai Yang, causing it to be unable to escape. Now that the profound soul ice butterfly had appeared, it was rushing towards the demon yuan. The demoness, who was originally imprisoned by Zhuowen, revealed a trace of hope in her beautiful eyes the moment she saw the profound soul ice butterfly. There was even a trace of shock, as if she had seen something inconceivable. The powerful snowstorm instantly enveloped the hundreds of demon soldiers. Waves of surging demonic yuan energy were absorbed by the profound soul ice butterfly. Zhuowen could clearly sense that the profound soul ice butterfly's aura was continuously increasing, reaching a level that was almost unreachable. "I'm afraid it's about to break through," Moyan and Bai Yang said with a slightly solemn expression. Zhuowen nodded, his eyes blazing. The profound soul ice butterfly was a powerful meta beast that possessed the bloodline of an ancient sacred beast. Once it broke through to the demon emperor realm, its combat strength would be much stronger than an ordinary demon emperor. At that time, the profound soul ice butterfly would be able to transform into a human form after becoming a demon emperor. It would be much more convenient to bring it around. Boom! A muffled thunderous explosion resounded. Soon after, the profound soul ice butterfly's aura skyrocketed to the extreme. Zhuowen even discovered that an extremely terrifying tribulation cloud had begun to condense above the void. That was the tribulation that the meta beast had to go through to become a demon emperor. The profound soul ice butterfly's accumulation was deep enough. Previously, it had absorbed the demon yuan of a third heaven demon emperor. Now, it had also absorbed the demon yuan of several hundred demon soldiers. With such a deep foundation, Zhuowen did not find it strange at all that it had broken through to the demon emperor realm. However, Zhuowen was worried that the commotion caused by the profound soul ice butterfly breaking through to the demon emperor realm would be too great. At that time, it might attract Mu Feng's attention. If Mu Feng really came here, it would be really bad. Breaking through at this time, Zhuowen said helplessly in his heart. However, the eyes of the demoness that was imprisoned by Zhuowen grew brighter and brighter. In the depths of her eyes, there was even a trace of excitement, as if she had seen some kind of hope. Tribulation clouds have actually appeared in the tomb? Someone has broken through to the emperor realm? Could it be Zhuowen? Mu Feng, who was originally in the world of the palace, quickly noticed the tribulation clouds that were constantly gathering in the distance. His eyes narrowed as he coldly snorted and rushed over with the 9 dragons formation. Chapter 1267. Dance of the Butterfly Rumble. Dark clouds gathered in the sky. Countless bolts of lightning were like pythons as they wantonly intertwined within the clouds. Soon after, a bolt of lightning as thick as an arm instantly streaked across the sky and violently smashed into the snowstorm below. TSK, TSK, TSK. However, the snowstorm was extremely powerful. The bolt of lightning that streaked across the sky only left behind traces of lightning in the snowstorm before it was completely annihilated. Boom, boom, boom. The instant this bolt of lightning descended, 3 more bolts of lightning continuously descended from the dark clouds. The bolts of lightning that descended this time were much more powerful than the first, regardless of whether it was in terms of quantity or quality. They were so numerous that it seemed like a prison of lightning. After all, the profound soul ice butterfly possessed the bloodline of an ancient sacred beast. It was extremely powerful. With a sharp cry, the surrounding snowstorm became even more terrifying. A thick layer of snow formed in the sky above, completely blocking the descending bolts of lightning outside the barrier. It's blocked the second lightning tribulation. Zhuowen muttered to himself. His gaze was filled with excitement. With the powerful bloodline of the profound soul ice butterfly, it shouldn't be too difficult to overcome this lightning tribulation. However, I'm worried about Mufeng. Moyan and Bai Yang suddenly said in a somewhat worried voice. Zhuowen nodded and said, "We have to constantly pay attention to the surrounding movements. It's rare for this little guy to have the opportunity to break through to the Demon Emperor level. We have to protect him." Hearing those words, Moyan and Bai Yang opened their mouths and smiled in embarrassment. However, they did not say anything else. Actually, they had originally wanted to directly ignore the profound soul ice butterfly and leave this place as soon as possible. However, since Zhuowen had said so, they were embarrassed to object. As for the originally imprisoned demoness, she suddenly said to Zhuowen, "Human, release me. I have a way to protect your safety." "Oh, you have a way to protect our safety?" Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he sneered. It was as if he had heard a great joke. Zhuowen sneered in his heart. Naturally, he did not believe the demoness' words. She had been shouting at him to kill him, but now, she was saying that she wanted to protect them. Seeing Zhuowen like this, the demoness was a little anxious. She hurriedly said, "I really have a way. In the mausoleum, we are not the only demon soldiers. There are demon kings above us, but they all live in a secret realm. The outside world has only sent 3 teams of demon soldiers. Let me go, and I will take you to that secret realm." Hearing the words of the female demon, Zhuowen, Moyan, and Bai Yang revealed an astonished expression. They did not expect that there would be other demon soldiers in the tomb. Moreover, from what the female demon had said, there was a demon king above the demon soldiers and even a secret realm. It seemed that this tomb was not simple. Of course, what Zhuowen was curious about was what kind of existence that demon king was. To be able to become the king of demon soldiers, he should at least be a high-level demon sovereign. That was an extremely terrifying existence. "Oh, didn't you say that you would rather die than take us to the enemy's side? Why did you suddenly change your mind? Moreover, that secret realm is where you demon soldiers live. There must be demon soldiers inside. If we follow you into the secret realm, won't we be seeking our own deaths?" Zhuowen sneered. However, the female demon shook her head and said rather seriously, "No, you won't be seeking your own deaths after entering the secret realm. On the contrary, you will be entertained by our demon king because you brought an existence like the profound soul ice butterfly." The words of the female demon immediately confused Zhuowen, Moyan, and Bai Yang. They were somewhat puzzled by the words of the female demon. Could it be that their demon king would entertain them just because of the profound soul ice butterfly? What kind of logic was that? The female demon naturally saw the disbelief on the faces of Zhuowen and Bai Yang. She continued, "Because our great demon king's true form is the powerful profound soul ice butterfly. A demon of the same race." Zhuowen, Moyan, and Bai Yang were startled. They finally understood why the female demon said that the demon king would entertain them. It turned out that this was the reason. Demon emperors, compared to human warriors, were extremely rare. Especially those with extremely powerful bloodlines, their numbers were probably even rarer. It was very rare to encounter a powerful demon emperor of the same race. If they did, generally, powerful demon emperors would treat the younger generation of the same race well. How do we know if this is a lie that you weaved? After all, if you used this information as bait to lure us into the secret realm and then let the demon soldiers inside kill us, wouldn't our sacrifice be in vain? Moyan and Bai Yang frowned slightly. The female demon was somewhat anxious. She said, "I don't need to lie to you about this. You should be hiding from the master of the 9 dragons formation, right? Now that the entrance to the tomb has been sealed, hiding in the secret realm is your only choice. Let's wait for the little guy to pass the lightning tribulation. Zhuowen suddenly said after pondering for a while. The female demon's tone and attitude did not seem to be lying. Therefore, Zhuowen was prepared to wait for the profound soul ice butterfly to pass the lightning tribulation and successfully advance to the demon emperor realm before making a decision. The female demon nodded. She was not in a hurry. After all, the reason why she changed her mind was mainly because of the profound soul ice butterfly. Otherwise, she would be too lazy to pay attention to the two humans in front of her. Thinking of the old demon king in the secret realm who was nearing the end of his lifespan, the female demon looked at the profound soul ice butterfly that was about to advance to the demon emperor realm. Her eyes were filled with a different kind of brilliance. The last lightning tribulation. About the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the lightning tribulation was about to come to an end. The dark clouds in the sky began to slowly rotate, forming a black spiral. In the middle of the black spiral clouds, a bolt of lightning as thick as a water bucket suddenly struck down. Below the dark clouds, the bolt of lightning transformed into a huge lightning snake. It opened its bloody mouth and roared as it charged towards the snowstorm below. Rumble. The last lightning tribulation was indeed powerful. The barrier formed by the snowstorm was directly shattered like tofu. The lightning snake continued to sink with irresistible force and directly shattered the snowstorm. Boom. Amidst the lightning glow, a graceful figure was faintly discernible within the snowstorm. Soon after, Zhuowen and the rest saw the graceful figure extend her slender jade-like hand. A wave of bone-chilling demonic energy gushed out and formed a glossy ice mirror in front of her. Bang! The huge lightning snake slammed into the ice mirror. It merely caused the latter to sway for a moment before it was completely blocked outside the ice mirror. After a brief moment, the lightning snake also completely dissipated. At this moment, the lightning tribulation had completely disappeared. The instant the lightning tribulation disappeared, the gazes of Zhuowen and the rest landed on the graceful figure. Soon after, a trace of astonishment was revealed on their faces. This was because the figure that had appeared before them was no longer the butterfly-like profound soul ice butterfly from before. Instead, it was a slender young lady. This young lady had a petite and exquisite figure. Her neck, arms, chest and waist were covered with fluffy soft fur, which just happened to cover the private parts of a woman. Her white cheeks were tinged with rosy red, just like an exquisite porcelain doll. In particular, there were two thin antennae on her head, which made her look exceptionally adorable. In addition, there was a pair of thin transparent wings on the young lady's back. They seemed to be formed from ice and snow, appearing just like an exquisite sculpture. They were extremely beautiful. Swoosh! The thin wings on the young lady's back flapped and immediately flew towards Zhuowen. When she arrived in front of Zhuowen, under the latter's astonished gaze, she threw herself into Zhuowen's embrace. Her head with antennae continuously rubbed against Zhuowen just like before. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with a sense of dependence towards Zhuowen. Hee. Master, I have finally transformed into a human. In the past, I was unable to hug you. Now, I can finally hug you. Hee. A melodious voice like that of an oriole was emitted from the young lady's mouth. Zhuowen was somewhat speechless as he looked at the young lady rubbing against his chest. He knew that this should be the profound soul ice butterfly that had transformed into a human. In the past, when this little fellow had not transformed into a human, he did not feel anything when she rubbed against his chest. But now, in her human form, she was actually such a small and exquisite young lady. Using this posture to rub against his chest, this feeling made Zhuowen feel a little strange. Hurriedly dodging the exceptionally passionate young lady, Zhuowen stared at the young lady and said, "You are the profound soul ice butterfly that has transformed into a demon emperor?" The young lady was clearly somewhat dissatisfied with Zhuowen's dodging action. She pouted and said, "That's right. I am the profound soul ice butterfly. Master, didn't you stroke my head in the past? Why aren't you touching it now?" Hearing the young lady's lovable snort that contained hidden bitterness, Zhuowen was once again speechless. He could only awkwardly smile and say, Today is different from the past. Do you have a name? Tell me about it. Zhuowen's words diverted the young lady's attention. She giggled and said, Of course I do. My name is Wu Dai. In the future, Master can just call me Dai. Wu Dai. Zhuowen muttered as he nodded in agreement. Soon after, he solemnly said, The commotion caused by your tribulation is very big. We have to leave this place as soon as possible. Wu Dai nodded. She also knew a little about the outside world, so she was not too surprised by Zhuowen's words. At this moment, the demoness suddenly arrived in front of Wu Dai. She placed her right hand in front of her chest and said in an extremely respectful manner, Esteemed Lord, can you let Yaoji take you to the secret realm? You are. Wu Dai tilted her head and asked in astonishment. Zhuowen briefly introduced the demoness' identity. Only then did Wu Dai nod. However, her eyes fell on Zhuowen. She grabbed Zhuowen's arm and giggled, I will listen to Master. Wherever you go, I will go. The demoness nodded. Her gaze fell on Zhuowen as she respectfully said, Yaoji hopes that everyone can make a trip to the secret realm. There, no one will disturb you. At the same time, it will be the best shelter for everyone. Zhuowen. Mo Yang and Bai Yang looked at Zhuowen, letting the latter make the decision. Then let's make a trip to the secret realm. After thinking for a moment, Zhuowen gritted his teeth and said. He knew that he had nowhere to go in this tomb. He could enter the secret realm to take a look. After all, the demoness' gaze was quite sincere. Then everyone, follow me. Chapter 1268. Crisis. It wasn't just the demoness, even Zhuowen, Wu Dai, Moyan and Bai Yang who were following behind her had stopped in their tracks as well, and their expressions had become extremely ghastly pale. Because strands of black aura had unknowingly blocked their path ahead. Ow! Ferocious roars rang out from the black chi. Soon after, the black chi wriggled and began to transform into strange human figures. The number of these human figures was so great that it was enough to make the hearts of Zhuowen and the others tremble. As far as the eye could see, they were so densely packed that there was practically no end to them. What are these things? The demoness' face was pale and her voice trembled. She found that the aura of these strange human figures was extremely powerful. Almost all of them had reached the Emperor realm. Moreover, the number of them was so great that it made her feel numb. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of them. Just think about it, the power of tens of thousands of Emperor realm creatures combined was something that even a high-level Emperor realm cultivator would not dare to fight against. However, this was only in terms of power. If there really was a high-level Emperor realm expert, tens of thousands of these creatures would not be able to stop him. After all, a high-level Emperor realm cultivator was much more agile than tens of thousands of creatures. Zhuowen and the others weren't high-level great emperors. Faced with so many great emperors, there was nothing they could do but run. There was nothing else they could do. Run. There are too many of them. We can't fight against them. Zhuowen roared as he suddenly took out the Origin Energy Pagoda and stored Moyan, Bai Yang, the Banshee, and Wu Dai into it. Shortly after, he formed a seal with his hands and 3 pairs of lightning wings sprouted from his back. With a rumble, Zhuowen fled forward as if his life depended on it. Facing tens of thousands of monarch realm creatures, for the current Zhuowen, was simply courting death. Even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, he couldn't be a match for such a terrifying number of monarch realm creatures. Even if these monarch realm creatures were all low-level monarch realm, for him, the strongest was only a 3rd-level demon overlord. It was simply courting death. To put it bluntly, even a peak 6th heaven Emperor realm expert would fall in the face of such a terrifying number of Emperor realm creatures. If Zhuowen did not run, he would be out of his mind. After all, Zhuowen had the 3 lightning wings of the 6 lightning wings. If he fully unleashed it, his speed might not be comparable to a high-level Emperor realm expert, but it was still much faster than a mid-level Emperor realm expert. After all, the 6 lightning wings of wind and lightning increased with his strength. Therefore, Zhuowen immediately kept Wu Dai and the others in the Yuan Qi Pagoda and fled alone. Wu! The instant Zhuowen spread his lightning wings and fled, the densely packed strange human figures roared and chased after Zhuo Wen in a mighty manner. What surprised Zhuo Wen was that the speed of these strange creatures was not slow at all. He was actually unable to shake them off in a short time. Are these strange creatures the things trapped in the fifth palace? While paying attention to the huge number of creatures behind him, Zhuo Wen's eyes became extremely gloomy. At the same time, his consciousness entered the Yuan Qi pagoda and transmitted to the demoness, "Quickly tell me the location of the secret realm." The demoness in the Yuan Qi pagoda was frightened. After a long while, she came back to her senses and nodded. Then, she transmitted the map of the secret realm to Zhuo Wen's sea of consciousness. Zhuo Wen casually checked the map sent by the demoness. At the same time, he exerted all his strength to display his lightning wings. His whole body turned into an ethereal lightning and disappeared from the spot in an instant. There it is. After approximately 10 minutes, Zhuo Wen arrived at an enormous valley. The surroundings of this valley were formed by piles of yellow sand. It was in the shape of a bowl as it quietly stood on the ground. However, what caused Zhuo Wen to be astonished was that the valley was completely empty. Not even a blade of grass grew within it. It was extremely desolate, and it was the complete opposite of the secret realm that the demoness had described. What's going on? Zhuo Wen did not even think about it. He summoned the demoness from the Yuan Qi pagoda and asked in an ice-cold voice. The secret realm is inside the valley. However, there is a powerful restriction outside the secret realm, which conceals the secret realm inside the valley. That's why you can't see it. Now, you just have to follow me in. As the female demon spoke, she took a step forward. However, the instant she took a step forward, she violently spat out a mouthful of blood and was directly sent flying. Zhuo Wen's eyebrows slightly knitted together. He extended his right hand and pressed it against the back of the female demon, causing her flying figure to come to a complete stop. Mental energy. Mu Feng. Zhuo Wen's gaze turned dark and gloomy as he turned his head around. Coincidentally, he saw Mu Feng standing on the Nine Dragons formation 100 meters away, looking over at him with a ridiculing gaze. At this moment, Zhuo Wen's mood fell to the bottom. He never expected that Mu Feng would chase after him at this moment. Bang! Without saying anything else, Zhuo Wen immediately transformed into his demonic body and sent a fist rumbling forward. In an instant, terrifying demonic energy gushed out, forming demonic clouds in the sky. However, there seemed to be an invisible barrier before him. A wave of frightening energy rippled out, causing Zhuo Wen to involuntarily take a few steps back, his face extremely dark. It's useless. Your strength is as weak as an ant before me, Mu Feng said with a faint smile. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, the densely packed strange figures that were chasing after Zhuo Wen shot over in a grandiose manner, instantly surrounding Zhuo Wen. Kill. Mu Feng gave the order without any trace of politeness. In an instant, the countless strange figures roared as they launched their attacks towards Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen, enter the Yuan Qi pagoda. A voice rang out beside Zhuo Wen's ears. Knowing that it was Lu Hantian's voice, Zhuo Wen's eyes sparkled. Nodding his head, he brought the demoness into the Yuan Qi pagoda. From the size of a palm, the Yuan Qi pagoda grew to a height of several hundred feet, spanning across the sky. Bang! 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 Countless attacks from the strange figures landed on the Yuan Qi pagoda, causing it to violently shake, while strange crackling sounds rang out. Roar! The strange figures furiously roared as they began to unceasingly attack the Yuan Qi pagoda. Ear-piercing sounds of metal clashing continuously rang out, appearing extremely ear-piercing in this world. On the fourth floor of the Yuan Qi pagoda, Zhuo Wen, Lu Hantian, Grand Devil Lord, Mo Yang, Bai Yang, Wu Dai, and the demoness gathered together with a solemn expression. At the same time, the Yuan Qi pagoda's unceasing shaking continuously transmitted to the fourth floor, causing the six of their faces to turn increasingly unsightly. What should we do? The Yuan Qi pagoda is only a mid-grade Emperor artifact. Under the attacks of tens of thousands of Emperor realm creatures, it simply won't be able to withstand it. Lu Hantian spread out his hands and said with a bitter smile. The other five looked at each other in dismay. For a moment, They fell into silence. Suddenly, the demoness spoke. "This place is very close to the secret realm. I can try to contact the nearby demon soldiers. If I can contact them, with Lord Wu Dai's relationship, the Demon King will definitely appear. If you can contact them, that would be the best." Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he stared at the demoness. The latter nodded and narrowed her eyes. She crossed her hands and raised them to the sky. A strange sound wave emitted from her mouth and spread out outside the Yuan Qi pagoda. At the entrance of the valley 1,000 meters away, 2 demon soldiers with the head of a snake and the tail of a fish stood within the invisible restriction. These 2 demon soldiers were extremely muscular and their eyes emitted a faint green glow. Through the restriction, they naturally noticed the countless number of strange human figures 1,000 meters away. Surprise was revealed in their eyes. "What are those things? I've never seen them before in the tomb," one of the demon soldiers said in surprise. The other demon soldier shrugged and rolled his dead fish eyes. He said in a somewhat dull manner, "Who knows? Maybe they're demon soldiers that we don't know about. But there's still a lot of them. Let's let them in." "You idiot, how can you tell that those strange things are demon soldiers? You really have a pig's brain. Guarding this entrance with you is the most unfortunate thing I've encountered in my life." The slightly more normal demon soldier held his forehead. His eyes revealed an expression that said "You're hopeless" as he scolded. "Hey! There's a distress signal." The demon soldier that was holding his forehead suddenly had a stern expression. He had keenly captured the sound wave that came from outside. Soon after, he tilted his head to listen. The more he listened, the uglier his expression became. In the end, he was so angry that he kicked the dull-witted demon soldier in front of him. "Why did you kick me?" The dull-witted demon soldier rolled a few times on the ground and looked somewhat innocently at the demon soldier. "I was too excited just now. You idiot, guard this entrance for a while. I have something important to report to the Demon King." As he spoke, the demon soldier immediately disappeared from the entrance, leaving the dull-witted demon soldier to quietly crawl to his feet. Then, he quietly looked at the countless strange human figures outside and quietly stared blankly. Mu Feng quietly looked at the Yuan Qi pagoda, which was being surrounded and bombarded by the strange humanoid figures. A sliver of ridicule appeared in his eyes as he muttered, "The defensive strength of this mid-ranked emperor artifact is not bad. However, I still need to add some fire to it." As he spoke, Mu Feng patted the 9 dragons array beneath his feet. Instantly, 9 giant dragons roared towards the sky, before shooting towards the Yuan energy tower in the middle from 9 different directions. Bang bang bang! 9 terrifying ear-piercing explosions resounded, before 9 extremely terrifying explosions erupted. In the next moment, the gigantic Yuan energy tower started to violently shake. In the end, faint cracks started to appear on the surface of the Yuan energy tower. Puff! Within the Yuan energy tower, Lu Hantian's face turned pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. In a deep voice, he said, "Not good, the Yuan energy tower can't hold on for much longer." Just as Lu Hantian finished speaking, everyone saw cracks start to appear on the surface of the Yuan energy tower. Furthermore, the cracks started to continuously spread, before finally shattering into countless fragments. Ow! Countless black qi drilled in from the outside, crazily shooting towards the 6 people within the Yuan energy tower, as if they wanted to devour everyone. Everyone, be careful. Chapter 1269. The birth of the blood demon. Everyone, form a circle and block these things. Zhuowen roared and stood back to back with his demonic avatar. The demonic avatar held the slaughtering demonic blade as demonic energy surged out. Countless blade shadows covered his body like locusts, flashing across space. Celestial energy surged from Zhuowen's hand. White light soared into the sky as he swung the tiger head clear gold spear. The spear shadow formed from celestial energy appeared like the sharpest weapon in the world. Moyan, Bai Yang, Lu Hantian, Wu Dai, the Lord of Grand Devils, and the demoness had recovered from their shock as well. They stood back to back and formed a circle, and each of them executed their strongest techniques to block off the countless strange figures that were flashing over menacingly from the surroundings. Boom boom boom! Terrifying black chi violently collided with the various attacks from the 7 of them. Immediately, extremely frightening aftershocks erupted from both sides. They were like ripples in water as they spread in all directions. The black chi and the various colored yuan power collided. The various colors that spread were extremely bright and colorful like fireworks. An ear-piercing explosion sounded like thousands of bombs exploding at the same time. The noise was enough to shatter the eardrums of an ordinary cultivator. However, no one present was an ordinary person. Naturally, they would not be affected by such noise. The moment the two energies came into contact, the hundreds of strange human figures at the front were directly shattered and annihilated, turning into illusory black chi. However, the number of these strange human figures was too large. Even though the strength of the 7 present was extraordinary, the difference in numbers between the two sides was too obvious. The strange human figures could use the sea of people to completely crush the 7 of them. Moreover, what made Zhuowen's expression turn ugly was that the strange human figures that they had annihilated actually wiggled and gave birth to new strange human figures after turning into black chi. In other words, these strange human figures could not be killed. Even if one was annihilated, a new one would be born. There was no end to this. Under the relentless attacks of the strange humanoid figures, the expressions of Zhuowen's group of 7 could be said to be extremely ugly. They were practically at an absolute disadvantage. At this moment, the team was like a lone boat in a vast ocean that could be annihilated by the raging tsunami at any time. Pucci. Lu Hantian and the demoness both spat out mouthfuls of blood at the same time. Their faces were incomparably pale. Their eyes were extremely solemn and filled with despair. They knew that there were too many of these strange figures. Even if the 7 of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Big brother Hantian, Yaroji, you guys step back first. Leave the rest to us. Zhuowen roared and immediately shrunk the encirclement. Lu Hantian and Enchantress retreated into the encirclement. Whether it was Lu Hantian or Enchantress, both of them had suffered heavy injuries. It was expected that they would be the first to retreat. The defeat of Lu Hantian and the Banshee caused the pressure on Zhuowen and the other 4 to increase by a lot. The trend of their defeat became even more tilted. Zhuowen, we can't go on like this. I'm afraid that we won't be able to hold on for long. Moyan Bai Yang's expression was pessimistic. He was the strongest in the group, but under the siege of so many strange human figures, it was still extremely difficult for him. Zhuowen, release the blood demon. I'm afraid that only that guy can help us escape this calamity. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Zhuowen frowned slightly. The blood demon was an ancient saint-level creature. Although it had been seriously injured and had fallen into a deep sleep before reaching the saint level, it still had the power of a high-level emperor. If he released it, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control it at all. It was very likely that that guy would escape. Pucci. Wu Dai also couldn't bear the pressure and was forced to retreat. In an instant, there were only 4 people left in the encirclement. Even Zhuowen couldn't bear it anymore. Traces of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Zhuowen, I think it's best that you don't put up a final struggle. If you submit to me now, I can promise you that I won't kill the people beside you. Mu Feng stood on the 9 dragons formation as he stood in the air, looking down at Zhuowen and the others. Zhuowen didn't pay any attention to Mu Feng. Instead, his eyes were dark as he continued to block the countless strange human figures rushing over from the surroundings. Zhuowen's attitude naturally caused Mu Feng's eyes to turn dark. With a cold snort, he didn't say anything else and just coldly watched. Looks like I can only release the blood demon. With a soft sigh, Zhuowen flicked his finger and immediately took out the demon's sealing green coffin. With a pat of his right hand, the lid of the demon's sealing green coffin slowly opened with a creak. A frightening pressure flowed out from the green coffin, causing the surrounding air to instantly freeze. Bang! Without the slightest bit of hesitation, Zhuowen furiously smashed his palm against the coffin lid. Instantly, the lid was blasted open, completely revealing the interior of the coffin. A blood-colored pillar of light rushed towards the heavens from the green coffin, seemingly stretching across the heavens and earth. Under the frightening blood-colored pillar of light, the countless strange human figures that were rushing over were all sent flying back. Their scarlet eyes were filled with shock and fear. That's because they had discovered that the aura within the pillar of light was extremely powerful, so powerful that it caused their hearts to tremble. Rumble. A gigantic blood-colored figure that reached the heavens and the earth slowly stepped out from the blood-colored pillar of light in the air. As it stepped on the air, the frightening power contained within caused the entire space to tremble violently. Ha ha ha. This demon is finally out. How many years has it been? This demon is finally able to see the light of day once again. Ha ha ha. A savage laughter rang out from the blood-colored figure, continuously reverberating across the heavens and earth. Within the blood-colored figure, a pair of large lantern-like eyes sparkled, containing a cruel smile. What is this thing? Moyan, Bai Yang, Banshee, Grand Demon Lord, and Wu Dai were all puzzled. Only Lu Hantian recognized the true body of the blood demon. After all, the blood demon had been sealed in the Vitality Tower back then. He had even lived in the blood demon's lair for a very long time, so he was extremely familiar with the blood demon's aura. Zhuoan, isn't it inappropriate for you to release the blood demon? Lu Hantian asked somewhat uncertainly. Zhuoan shook his head. This is the only method I have right now. If I hadn't borrowed the power of the blood demon, we would have been completely wiped out by now. I had no choice but to use it. Lu Hantian nodded when he heard Zhuoan's words. However, he was still somewhat worried that the blood demon would turn around and deal with Zhuoan's group, so he remained vigilant in his heart. Zhuoan, you've got guts to actually release this lord. The blood demon suddenly lowered his head and looked down at Zhuoan, who was only the size of his thumb. He grinned, his eyes containing a cruel smile. What? You plan to come out and deal with me? You should know that I still have a trace of your imprint in my hand. Are you sure you can kill me? Zhuoan said indifferently. I'll help you disperse these disgusting things and you'll set me free. How about that? The blood demon replied. Zhuoan shook his head and pointed at Mu Feng, who was in the 9 dragons formation. Not only do you have to disperse these things, you also have to help me kill this fellow. If you can do it, why can't I set you free? The blood demon indifferently glanced at Mu Feng, who was not far away, and nodded. All right, remember your promise. After saying that, the blood demon did not hesitate. He waved his huge blood-red palm, causing an extremely terrifying storm to sweep through the air. A pungent and unpleasant stench pervaded the air, giving people the feeling that they were in a bloodbath. Boom boom boom. With just a wave of his hand, over 1,000 strange humanoid figures were completely annihilated, turning into wriggling black chi. Break for this lord. Blood sea overflows the heavens. The blood demon roared out furiously as an endless sea of blood gushed out from his gigantic body. A tsunami that blotted the heavens rolled out from the sea of blood. The blood-red waves were accompanied by blood-red gales, causing extremely frightening energy ripples to form in the air. Boom, boom, boom. The tens of thousands of strange humanoid figures in the surroundings were completely engulfed by the sea of blood, turning into black chi one after another. However, these strange black chi seemed to be indestructible, as even the sea of blood was unable to cause any damage to them. Retreat. A look of astonishment appeared in Mu Feng's eyes. The might of this blood-red figure that had suddenly appeared was truly too terrifying. With just a wave of his hand, he was able to annihilate over 1,000 strange humanoid figures. With just a single move, he was able to annihilate tens of thousands of strange humanoid figures. With a low roar, the countless black chi immediately fled towards the back. As for Mu Feng, who was standing on the 9 dragons formation, he continuously retreated. His gaze was filled with extreme fear as he stared at the gigantic blood demon. If his estimation was correct, the blood demon's strength should be at the 7th level Emperor realm. Its might was overwhelming, and such an opponent was exceptionally troublesome to deal with. Zhuoan wants me to take your head. Are you going to commit suicide? Or do you want me to help you? The blood demon took a step forward as he spoke to Mu Feng in an indifferent manner. Take my head. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Although Mu Feng was afraid of the blood demon, he was not afraid. With a cold snort, he patted the 9 dragons formation with his right hand. The 9 dragons formation beneath his feet roared as it shot towards the blood demon. The blood demon frowned slightly. His gigantic palm, which was the size of a palm leaf fan, descended and smashed towards the 9 dragons formation. With a rumbling sound, the entire void exploded. The 9 dragons formation roared and was actually forced to take a few steps back. Its aura had become extremely weak. Haha. A mere heavenly arcane master actually dares to be so arrogant in front of me. Die. The blood demon laughed loudly as his gigantic hands grabbed the 9 dragons formation. No matter how the 9 dragons struggled and roared, they were unable to break free. After that, his hands suddenly tore apart the 9 dragons, causing a rain of blood to fall from the sky. It was an extremely miserable sight to behold. It's your turn now. After destroying the 9 dragons formation, the blood demon laughed out loud. In an instant, he stepped through the air and his gigantic palm, which was like a mountain peak, descended towards Mu Feng's head. Bastard! Run! Mu Feng's expression was extremely ugly. With a wave of his sleeve, he immediately took out the sun shuttle. After that, the sun shuttle erupted with a dazzling radiance. Like a miniature sun, it instantly disappeared before the blood demon's eyes. Trying to escape from me? It's not that easy. Chapter 1270. Demon King. The moment the blood demon appeared, the tens of thousands of strange figures retreated. Even Mu Feng did not dare to fight against it. This scene caused Mo Yang, Bai Yang and the others to be stunned. Soon after, they looked at Zhuowen in a strange manner. They did not expect that Zhuowen would have such a monster. The blood demon is an ancient sacred level creature. Although its vitality has been greatly damaged due to various reasons, its strength is still comparable to an ordinary advanced emperor. Zhuowen explained with a faint smile. However, he sighed in his heart. He knew that the trump card of the blood demon could only be used once. After this time, the blood demon would probably completely escape from the demon's sealing green coffin. At that time, it would no longer be under his control. However, he did not regret it. If he had not released the blood demon in that life and death situation, their group would have died. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard from the valley in front of them. A dense horde of demon soldiers appeared before Zhuo Wen and the others. In front of the demon soldiers, a young woman with a voluptuous figure and thin wings on her back stood. Her bewitching eyes were instantly fixed on Wu Dai, who was beside Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes revealed a tinge of excitement. Soul Ice Butterfly? Looking at the young woman with thin wings on her back, Zhuowen was startled. This young woman's appearance was too similar to Wu Dai. Needless to say, her original form should also be a soul ice butterfly. Moreover, the powerful aura emitted from her body was as vast and powerful as the sea. Although it could not be compared to the blood demon, the difference was not that great. This young woman's cultivation was definitely around the advanced demon emperor level. Her strength was extremely terrifying. Zhuowen knew that he would not be able to fight back against such an existence. It seemed that Yarou Ji did not lie to them. This young woman before them should be the king of the demon soldiers. Her original form was the same as Wu Dai, a soul ice butterfly. However, Zhuowen could keenly sense that there was a trace of death qi lingering between the young woman's brows. Although the death qi was not very dense, it was still captured by Zhuowen. The mystic soul ice butterfly's cultivation level is around the 6th level of the demon emperor realm. Its battle prowess is comparable to an ordinary 7th level demon emperor. However, its lifespan is reaching its end. It won't be able to live for much longer. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in Zhuowen's mind, causing his eyes to narrow. Is his lifespan coming to an end? Zhuowen's heart trembled as he thought to himself. Your Majesty. Enchantress came before the young woman and knelt down on one knee. Her tone was extremely respectful. Enchantress, you've made a great contribution. I will remember this. The young woman nodded at Yaroji. With a single step, she arrived in front of Wu Dai and gently asked, "Child, what is your name?" At this moment, the usually lively Wu Dai was at a loss. This was because she felt that the young woman in front of her gave her an extremely amiable feeling. It was as if the person in front of her was a very important relative of hers. This kind of amiable feeling was similar to that of Zhuowen. The only difference was that she was more dependent on Zhuowen. Towards the young woman in front of her, it was a kind of throbbing from the depths of her blood. "Wu Dai." Wu Dai replied in a very low and soft voice. "Wu Dai, how about I call you Dai in the future?" The young woman stretched out her hand and gently stroked Wu Dai's head. "En." Wu Dai gently nodded. Immediately after, she asked curiously, "What is your name? You give me a very familiar feeling. This kind of feeling is as if you're my close relative. It's very amiable, just like my master." "En. Master." The young woman's eyes focused and emanated a wisp of cold light. Her eyes were placed on Zhuowen, Mo Yang, Bai Yang, and the others who stood behind Wu Dai, and she said coldly, "Someone amongst all of you dares to be Dai's master?" "It's me." Zhuowen took a step forward, looked straight at the young woman and said indifferently, "You're really bold. A mere peak heavenly master dares to take my mystic soul ice butterfly clan as your slave. What right do you have?" As the young woman spoke, her eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent. The surrounding air suddenly became cold. Traces of snowflakes began to condense in the surroundings, like the precursor of a snowstorm. This was the mighty force condensed by the young woman's demonic power. "No, he's my master. You're not allowed to hurt him. If it weren't for my master, I wouldn't have been able to advance to the Demon Emperor realm. The reason why I have such achievements is all because of my master." Wu Dai hurriedly broke free from the young woman and stood in front of Zhuowen. The young woman frowned slightly. Her beautiful eyes flickered. She lightly sighed and said, "Dai, you've really been sold by someone and you're still counting money for him. This human helped you to increase your strength. Isn't it because he wants to borrow your strength for his use? All humans are not good people. I don't care. You can't hurt my master. If you touch him, don't blame me for being impolite." Wu Dai was fuming. She condensed strands of ice and snow power in her hands, as if she would attack the young woman at any time. The young woman frowned slightly and sighed, "Since you've said so, I won't touch him. You guys go into the secret realm together. It's not safe outside." After saying that, the young woman waved her hand. A gust of energy spread out and pulled Wu Dai to her side. Wu Dai wanted to struggle, but the young woman was a 7th-level demon sovereign. How could Wu Dai break free from her grasp? "Girl, I promise you that I won't hurt your master. Now you have to listen to me and come with me. I'll let you meet your master later." Seeing Wu Dai struggling, the young woman faintly transmitted her voice to her. Hearing this, Wu Dai stopped struggling. However, her pair of beautiful eyes kept looking back at Zhuowen and the others. Her eyes were full of worry. After the young woman left, many of the demon soldiers returned to the secret realm. However, these demon soldiers looked at Zhuowen and the others with a trace of warning. After all, Zhuowen and the others were human cultivators. They were not of their race. Naturally, they would not be able to gain their trust. "Zhuowen, I'll take you into the secret realm. Fortunately, because of your relationship with Lord Wu Dai, you can enter the secret realm. If it were any other time, human cultivators would definitely die in the secret realm." Yaroji came in front of Zhuowen and the others and said helplessly. Perhaps because of the experience of going through life and death together, Yaroji had a better impression of Zhuowen and the others. She was not as repulsive as before. Zhuowen and the others looked at each other and nodded. Soon after, they followed behind Demonis and entered the secret realm. The outside of the secret realm was restored to its original state of desolation. Bang! 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 Above the endless void, a gigantic figure that stood between the heavens and the earth walked across the void step by step. His imposing figure was extremely impactful in the void. In front of the blood figure, a tiny figure was fleeing in panic. "Die for me. Let's see where you can escape to." The blood demon laughed loudly. Taking a step forward, he instantly closed in on Mu Feng. At the same time, his gigantic palm slammed down, directly shooting towards Mu Feng's back. Wherever the palm passed, gales howled and space collapsed, forming an endless black hole. Mu Feng's face was extremely gloomy. With a wave of his sleeve, he threw out countless yuan crystals. These yuan crystals took the shape of a nebula and revolved in front of him, forming a vast and mighty defense. Bang! As the palm slammed down, the blood demon was astonished to discover that the nebula defense was extremely sturdy. His palm was actually unable to shatter it. You have some ability. However, I still have to break it. The blood demon spoke out in an indifferent tone. The bloody glow from his palm blotted the skies, its might increasing by several folds. A pungent smell of blood started to spread out, causing many cracks to appear on the surface of the nebula defense. Bastard! Zhuoan, you little bastard! Remember this! Mu Feng scolded while gnashing his teeth. With a wave of his sleeve, he threw out even more yuan crystals to attach to the nebula. In an instant, the vast nebula started to revolve. The cracks caused by the blood demon's attack started to repair, and its defense actually increased by another level. After doing that, Mu Feng continued to retreat. In order to block the blood demon's attack, Mu Feng had taken out 2/3 of the yuan crystals he had on him to construct the nebula defense. Even so, he was still not confident that the nebula defense would be able to block the blood demon's attack. I need to hurry back to where my lord is. This blood demon is too strong. I'm afraid that only my lord can contend against it, right? As he thought about that, Mu Feng shot out like a gust of green smoke. He knew that the nebula defense would not be able to block the blood demon for long. Crack. Indeed, not long after Mu Feng left, the nebula collapsed. The blood demon took a step forward and chased after Mu Feng. After an incense stick's worth of time, Mu Feng had already arrived at the palace world. At this moment, the palace world was already filled with a vast and mighty black aura. In the void above, it looked like a black Rubik's cube. My lord, the moment he arrived at the palace world, Mu Feng impatiently wanted to speak. However, he was interrupted by the life form within the black clouds. I already know the details. That blood demon has annihilated tens of thousands of my doppelgangers. This grudge has been formed. That blood demon should be here very soon. Lure that fellow into the palace world. After all, that's an ancient saint-level life form. It's extremely powerful. It's a nourishment for me, hey. The black aura's voice slowly rang out. In the next instant, Mu Feng was astonished to discover that the black aura within the palace world was actually gradually retreating. In the end, all of the black aura was sucked into the fifth palace at the center. Even the destroyed palace had been restored to its original state. Mu Feng knew that this should be the disguise of that lord. Nodding his head, he slowly turned around and looked into the distance. There, a gigantic figure that reached the heavens and the earth was walking over, step by step. Its wanton laughter was just like muffled thunder as it rang out across the void. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the blood demon arrived before the palace world. Spotting Mu Feng, who was standing within the palace world, it gave a cold chuckle and said, "Run. Why aren't you running anymore?" Mu Feng slowly retreated, while a sliver of nervousness appeared within his eyes. This was not something that he was faking. Facing an ancient sacred level life form like the blood demon, anyone would feel somewhat scared and fearful. This was a common emotion that one would show when facing a powerful life form. Even though Mu Feng was a scheming person, he was still somewhat shaken. Die. The blood demon took a step into the palace world. A palm descended from the sky, shooting towards Mu Feng. Chapter 1271. Secret Realm. The blood demon frowned slightly. The instant his right hand smashed towards Mu Feng, who was within the palace world, endless black qi gushed out from the central palace. The black qi ferociously transformed into a gigantic hand, which grabbed hold of the blood demon's hand. Furthermore, What caused the blood demon to feel somewhat astonished was that the power contained within the gigantic hand formed by the black chi was exceedingly frightening. The hand that was smashing down was actually stopped in the air, unable to move at all. "What's this?" the blood demon roared out. With a twist of his hand, a bloody glow that blotted the skies spread out. An even more powerful force gushed out, causing the surrounding space to collapse and shatter, forming cracks and black holes. However, the black hand that grabbed hold of the blood demon's hand was like an iron hoop, firmly holding the blood demon's hand in place. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, more and more black chi started to spread out from the palace, extending towards the blood demon's gigantic body. It appeared as though it wanted to devour the blood demon's entire body. Scram! Upon discovering that the black chi was like a maggot that was hard to shake off, a grave expression finally appeared in the blood demon's eyes. Surging blood chi erupted from his body, appearing just like an erupting volcano, extremely berserk and violent. TSK TSK. Ancient sacred level life form blood demon. Since you've delivered yourself to my doorstep, I won't stand on ceremony and enjoy you. An extremely evil voice rang out from within the black chi. In the next instant, the blood demon's eyes shrunk slightly as he discovered a similarly gigantic figure slowly walking out from within the black chi. When the figure finally appeared before the blood demon, the latter's eyes narrowed to the extreme. "You! How is this possible? This is the Eastern lands. How can something like you still exist?" The blood demon's voice appeared somewhat sharp and extremely ear-piercing. From this, one could tell how shocked the blood demon was. "That's not right. Your strength shouldn't be so weak. Is this not your actual body?" The blood demon suddenly thought of something, as he spoke out in a somewhat fearful manner. The voice of the figure within the black chi turned somewhat dark and cold as he replied, "This is indeed my clone. My actual body is trapped in the Central Lands, and those old fellows are keeping a close eye on it. Also, you were quite an awe-inspiring existence back then. To think that you've actually fallen to such a state. How lamentable. Humph. Since it's not your true body, how dare you try to devour me?" Scram. The blood demon let out a roar and a bloody light erupted from his body. His strength increased exponentially. With a swing of his arms, the black gas surrounding his body immediately dissipated. However, the figure in the black gas sneered. A pair of arms covered with shells suddenly stretched out and slammed into the blood demon's chest. Thud, thud, thud. The blood demon was caught off guard. He let out a muffled groan and took a few steps back. His complexion became somewhat unsightly. At the same time, the strange black gas attached to the surface of his body and began to devour his flesh and blood energy. "It's useless. If you were at your peak, you might be able to shake me off. But look at yourself now. You're only at the 7th level of the martial emperor realm. What can you do with such strength? Obediently become my nourishment, and I will bring you to enjoy supreme glory." The figure in the black gas cackled strangely. His hands shot out again and punched the blood demon. The power of each punch caused the surrounding space to tremble. It was as if the heavens and earth were about to shatter. If a mid-level martial emperor were to face an ordinary punch from this figure, they would probably die. The blood demon felt helpless. He could only brace himself and face the black figure's attacks head-on. Every time, he was forced to retreat. At the same time, the black gas attached to his body was increasing. The speed at which it was devouring his flesh and blood energy was also increasing. The blood demon's strength was also weakening. On the other hand, the black shadow was constantly absorbing the blood demon's power, causing its aura to soar. In such a situation, the blood demon was becoming more and more passive. As expected of an ancient sacred level living being. This energy is much more abundant and pure than the mid-level martial emperors. While attacking, the black figure would occasionally click his tongue in amazement. This made the blood demon, who was passively resisting, angry. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His crimson eyes were filled with anger. "Don't look at me like that. Once I absorb all the energy in your body, I should be able to break free from these damned chains. When that time comes, my time will come. You will die a worthy death." Ha ha. Another punch. The blood demon was forced back dozens of steps. His aura was also extremely weak. His chest heaved up and down, and his crimson eyes dimmed. Bastard. I'd rather die than be absorbed by a monster like you. Heaven-defying blood escape. The blood demon roared. His voice was filled with unwillingness. The crimson light around his body became denser. Finally, the blood demon's huge body began to shrink, turning into a palm-sized ball of blood. With a whoosh, the ball of blood disappeared. When it reappeared, it was already tens of thousands of miles away. At a glance, it was only a black dot. That fellow actually used the heaven-defying blood escape. Damn it. I actually forgot that the blood demon had such a secret technique. A pair of strange eyes stared at the blood demon, who had already turned into a black dot. First, the figure was stunned. Then, a flustered and exasperated expression appeared on his face. However, the black figure quickly calmed down. He stared at Mu Feng and said, "Where's Zhuowen and his group?" The battle between the black figure and the blood demon could be described as earth-shattering. Mu Feng, who was watching from the side, was already stunned. At this moment, when the black figure asked, he regained his senses. He respectfully said, "This little one has already released the surveillance hummingbirds." When this little one was being chased by the blood demon, Zhuowen and his group were brought into a secret realm by a group of demon soldiers. Demon soldiers' secret realm? Speaking of which, the demon soldiers in the tomb are quite pitiful. Those fellows were originally the guards of that old bastard. Now, they've been guarding that old bastard's tomb for so long without leaving. I really don't know what they're thinking. Also, that Zhuowen has the river diagram array on him. That thing is the key to opening the inheritance. You can't let that brat know about it. Otherwise, your plan will be ruined. The black figure said in an indifferent tone. Mu Feng nodded his head and said, "I've never told that Zhuowen about this. He doesn't know the true use of the river diagram array. Sir, you can rest assured. Although I haven't completely escaped, I've absorbed quite a bit of the blood demon's energy. Right now, I'm able to unleash even more power than before. This king will project a shadow into the demon soldier's secret realm and take it down. Those demon soldiers are quite a lot of energy. This king won't let them go." The black figure gave a cold laugh. In the next instant, an even more terrifying black aura condensed, transforming into a giant shadow that was close to 1,000 feet in size. At the same time, the other black aura split into countless humanoid doppelgangers. They were densely packed together, and their numbers were even more terrifying than before. There seemed to be over 200,000 of them. The entire area within 1,000 feet of the palace world was practically filled with these strange humanoid doppelgangers. They were so densely packed together that they looked like a stretch of black clouds. Mu Feng, take my projected shadow and 100,000 of them to attack the demon soldier's secret realm. As for the remaining 100,000 doppelgangers, this king will send them out of the tomb to plunder all the flesh and blood energy in the Sea of Misery. This king needs enough energy to escape. Hee. The black figure said with a hearty laugh. Mu Feng nodded his head and stood on the shoulder of the nearly 1,000 feet tall shadow. With a wave of his hand, he led the 100,000 doppelgangers and shot towards the demon soldier's secret realm in a grandiose manner. As for the remaining 100,000 doppelgangers, they shot towards the entrance of the tomb. They were like black clouds that blotted out the sky and covered the sun. Above the gully, on the vast land, there were groups of warriors wandering around. These warriors were basically below the Emperor realm. After experiencing the Emperor corpse at the bottom of the gully, they no longer had the courage to enter the gully. Fortunately, their goal was only to advance to the Emperor realm. As long as they were lucky, they would be able to find the heart of imperial power on this land. After all, for those below the Emperor realm, the heart of imperial power was considered an extremely good treasure. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. A sharp piercing sound suddenly swept out from the bottom of the gully. After that, the warriors who were still wandering around on the land raised their heads and looked up. Immediately, they saw countless black figures rushing towards the sky from the bottom of the gully. They were so densely packed that they looked like black clouds that covered the entire sky. What is that? Looking at the vast and mighty black aura, many warriors on the land revealed a look of astonishment. This was the first time they had seen this kind of black aura. Not good. Let's escape. Outside a dilapidated temple on the land, the Buddha's avatar suddenly stood up and stared at the countless black aura rushing out from the gully. He could not help but shout at Moyen Wushang, Jianan, Gatha, and the others who were sitting cross-legged on the open ground. Before they could react, the Buddha's avatar's Buddhist power surged out and turned into a huge Buddha's palm. It grabbed Moyen Wushang and the others and immediately rushed towards the exit of the emperor's tomb at an extremely fast speed. The warriors on the land who had not entered the tomb had never seen the power of the black aura. Naturally, they did not know how terrifying this strange black aura was. However, Zhuowen knew. Through his body, he knew that the human figures formed by the black aura all had the strength of the emperor realm. Moreover, what made the Buddha's avatar even more shocked was that the amount of black aura rushing out from the bottom of the gully this time was more than in the tomb. It was estimated that there were more than 100,000 of them. This was really terrifying. Zhuowen, what is that? In the Buddha's palm, Moyen Wushang said solemnly. The Buddha's avatar's eyes flashed and he sighed softly. I don't know what it is either. However, I can tell you clearly that every human figure formed by the black aura has the strength of a low-level Emperor Realm expert. It is enough to crush all of you. I'm afraid that all of you who have entered the Emperor's tomb will be finished. They have the strength of a low-level Emperor Realm expert. Heavens, there are more than 100,000 black auras rushing out from the gully. Every one of them has the strength of a low-level Emperor Realm expert. This, Jianan involuntarily exclaimed. The others in the Buddha's palm also looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The power unleashed by 100,000 DI stage experts would likely cause everyone to feel despair. Chapter 1272. Heavenly Worm Ah! Miserable cries resounded over the entire land like a hurricane. This was because the countless amounts of black chi that surged out from the bottom of the gully were just like hungry wild beasts as they rushed towards the warriors on the ground, who were still in a state of shock. Most of the warriors who were curious were swallowed by the black gas before they could even make a sound. Not even a trace of them was left. The other warriors who were far away saw this scene and felt a chill in their hearts. They scattered like birds and beasts and fled towards the exit of the emperor's tomb. Unfortunately, it was too late. If they had made a prompt decision like Buddha Zhuowen when they saw the black gas, they might have been able to escape successfully. However, it was too late now. At the entrance of the emperor's tomb, Buddha Zhuowen led Moyen Wushang and the others to quietly look at the terrifying black gas that almost covered the entire land. Their eyes were filled with fear. Zhuowen, your original body and my grandfather are still in the depths of the gully. Are you all right? Moyen Wushang suddenly thought of something and asked Buddha Zhuowen excitedly. Buddha Zhuowen nodded and said, Miss Wushang, don't worry. The dean and my original body are in a safe place. Let's quickly leave the emperor's tomb and return to Excellent God Island. I'm afraid that the black gas will soon spread to the Misery Sea. As he spoke, Zhuowen looked at the terrifying black gas that was wantonly devouring the cultivators on the ground. He even saw that the black gas was increasing in number after devouring the cultivators' flesh and blood. This made Zhuowen's heart turn even colder. At the same time, he also remembered what Xiao Hei said to him. He whispered, Xiao Hei is right. This thing is a disaster. Let's go back to Excellent God Island. With a sigh, Buddha Zhuowen no longer cared about the tragedy in the emperor's tomb. He led Moyen Wushang and the others and quickly left the emperor's tomb. He knew that once the black gas killed all the warriors in the emperor's tomb, it would target the Misery Sea. At that time, the disaster of the Misery Sea would really descend. Whoosh! In the mausoleum, a bloody light suddenly cut through the void and instantly arrived in a dilapidated valley. Outside the valley, a figure quietly stood. Blood demon? The figure stared at the blood-red light that had appeared in front of him with a strange look in his eyes. Perhaps it had heard the voice, But the blood-red light suddenly paused and revealed its true body. At this moment, Shuemo's body was no different from an ordinary person. However, his entire body was covered in blood. His pair of blood-red eyes were extremely dim, and his aura was extremely weak. His entire body gave off a decadent aura. How did you end up like this? The figure that appeared outside the valley was naturally Zhuowen. The reason why he appeared here was because he sensed the aura of the blood demon. Therefore, he walked out of the demon weapon secret realm. The blood demon indifferently glanced at Zhuowen and coldly said, "Why didn't you tell me earlier that there was such a thing in the mausoleum?" Zhuowen was stunned. He looked at the blood demon with a strange expression. He did not understand what the latter was talking about. Just as he was about to speak, Xiao He suddenly appeared in front of him and indifferently said, "This matter has nothing to do with Zhuowen. It's impossible for him to know the identity of that thing." The blood demon looked at Xiao He with some fear. He coldly snorted and said, "You actually didn't tell this kid that something that shouldn't have appeared in the Eastern Territory actually appeared. This demon is really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. You used the heaven-defying blood escape? It seems like you suffered a great loss in front of that thing," Xiao He said with a strange expression. Although that thing wasn't its true body, this demon's strength wasn't at its peak. It's natural that I wasn't its opponent. Also, you forgot about that thing's devouring ability. If this demon didn't use the heaven-defying blood escape, I'm afraid I would have been devoured by that thing, the blood demon said with a gloomy expression. Xiao He nodded and indifferently said, "You should enter the demon-sealing green coffin first. With the side effect of the heaven-defying blood escape, if you don't want your vitality to be damaged, you can only seal yourself. Otherwise, the strength that you have painstakingly recovered will fall again." The blood demon's eyes flickered. He roared angrily and entered the demon-sealing green coffin. At this moment, he was extremely depressed. He originally thought that he could escape from the demon-sealing green coffin, but he did not expect to return to his original state. After sealing the green coffin, Zhuowen's expression turned ugly. He said in a low voice, "According to the information from the Buddhist avatar, the black gas has surged out of the mausoleum. It is now wantonly slaughtering the warriors below the Emperor realm in the Emperor's tomb. Looks like that thing is eager to escape. It is wantonly plundering the warriors' flesh and blood. If this continues, the Sea of Misery will face a great disaster," Xiao He said solemnly. Zhuowen's expression was extremely serious. He looked at Xiao He and said, "Xiao He, what is that thing? Looking at you and the blood demon, you seem to be very familiar with that thing." Facing Zhuowen's question, Xiao He's eyes flickered. She sighed and said, "I can only tell you that it is called the sky worm. It is an extremely ominous creature. Moreover, the sky worm that is trapped in the Emperor's tomb is not its real body. It is only a clone." "Not its real body? Only a clone?" Zhuowen was shocked. The thing that was trapped in the palace world was so terrifying that even the blood demon could not compete with it. However, it was only a clone of the sky worm. Zhuowen found himself in a mess. If a mere clone possesses such terrifying strength, then how terrifying would the main body be? Zhuowen thought to himself, trembling in fear. Then where is its real body? Zhuowen was curious about where the sky worm's real body was. In the center of the continent, in a place called Middle Earth. That place is a lot more vast than Eastern Earth. For example, Middle Earth status in the continent is equivalent to Abysmal Realm status in Eastern Earth, Xiao He said solemnly. Middle Earth. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He had only heard of Eastern Earth, Southern Barbarian, Western Region, and Arctic continent. However, this was the first time he had heard of Middle Earth. However, from Xiao He's tone, he could tell that Middle Earth had an extremely high status in Heavenly Armor continent. It should be the center of Eastern Earth, Southern Barbarian, Western Region, and Arctic continent. Where did this sky worm come from? Was its real body sealed in Middle Earth? Zhuowen asked curiously. I've said before that this sky worm is a disaster. It has indeed been sealed in Middle Earth. As for its origins, Xiao He fell silent when it reached there. It seemed to have something difficult to say. It sighed softly, You'll know when you truly step onto the stage of Middle-earth. Zhuowen also knew that it did not want to talk about the skyworm's origins. At the same time, he became more and more curious about Xiao Hei's identity. Was Xiao Hei related to this skyworm in some way? However, since Xiao Hei did not want to talk about it, Zhuowen obviously would not ask any further. Suddenly, Zhuowen's gaze landed on the space in the distance. Surging black qi swept over in a mighty manner from there. In front of the black qi was an illusory figure that was almost 1,000 feet tall. Zhuowen also saw a figure standing quietly on the shoulder of the illusory figure. He was no stranger to that figure. It was Mu Feng. Let's enter the secret realm first. Looks like the skyworm clone knows the location of the demonic weapon secret realm, Xiao Hei said with a slightly changed expression. Zhuowen nodded and stepped into the secret realm. At the same time, the demon soldiers in the secret realm also noticed the vast amount of black qi that was surging towards them. All of the demon soldiers were shocked. Moyan, Bai Yang, Lu Hantian, the Grand Demon Lord, and the Enchantress suddenly stood up at the top of a mountain in the secret realm. They also saw the surging black qi and the enormous illusory figure. Swoosh! A figure flew over. Moyan, Bai Yang, and the others immediately went forward. Their gazes all landed on the figure as they asked, Zhuowen, what exactly happened? The location of the demonic weapon secret realm has been discovered. Mu Feng is attacking with those strange black qi, Zhuowen said with an ugly expression. Swoosh swoosh. Not long after Zhuowen landed on the mountain, the Demon King also landed on the mountain with Wu Dai. The Demon King was called Yarrow Dai. At this moment, her gaze was firmly fixed on Zhuowen as she coldly said, "It's all because of you human cultivators that my demonic weapon secret realm has been exposed. Aunt Yarrow, don't blame Master and the others. I'm also with them. If the secret realm has been exposed, I'll also have a share in it," Wu Dai said coquettishly. Looking at Wu Dai, who was wholeheartedly on Zhuowen's side, a trace of helplessness appeared in Yarrow Dai's eyes. She said, "Stay here with them. I'll command the demonic soldiers to gather together and resist those damned insects." Senior Yarrow Dai, do you know the identity of those insects? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Yarrow Dai indifferently glanced at Zhuowen and said, "Those insects were sealed by my master back then. How could I not know? If it weren't for those insects, my sovereign region wouldn't have been destroyed in a single night. Even the emperor's tomb that my master built wouldn't have been reduced to its current state. Also, the unsealing of those insects is also related to you, right?" Zhuowen and the others looked at each other in dismay as awkward smiles appeared on their faces. Although the main culprit behind the unsealing of the heavenly insect avatar was Mu Feng, it was indeed related to them. Forget it. You guys just stay here obediently. I'll have to gather the demonic soldiers to resist those insects." Yarrow Dai shook her head and no longer paid any attention to Zhuowen and the others. With a stomp of her foot, the thin wings on her back suddenly flapped. Bringing with them endless wind and snow, she flew into the sky above the secret realm and shouted, "All demonic soldiers, gather and set up the demon god array." Yes. Countless voices echoed throughout the entire secret realm. In the next instant, over 10,000 demonic soldiers shot out from every corner of the secret realm. Under Yarrow Dai's command, they split up in the sky. Close to 10,000 demonic qi gushed out, converging between all the demonic soldiers. In the end, they transformed into gigantic phantoms that reached the heavens and the earth. Chapter 1273. Demon God Array. Demon God slashes the heavens. Yarrow Dai stood on the shoulder of the gigantic demon god. Her beautiful eyes were filled with malice as she stared at the endless black qi rushing over, as well as the gigantic illusory figure in front of the black qi. She knew that this illusory figure was the projection of the heavenly insect avatar, and possessed extremely terrifying strength. Bang bang bang! The demon god took a step forward, as the gigantic demon blade that spanned across the sky was swung out. Space crumbled as a demonic blade light filled the heavens and earth. Blade qi swept out, as ear-piercing screeches resounded in the surroundings. The might of this blade was extremely terrifying and powerful, causing even Zhuowen's heart to tremble. Standing on the heavenly insect avatar, Mu Feng's face was filled with shock. The might of this blade attack from the demon god was extremely terrifying. He did not know if the heavenly insect avatar could block it. Naturally, the worry in Mu Feng's heart was completely unnecessary. The heavenly insect avatar coldly snorted, before its 12 arms extended out. Like 12 pythons, they exploded with rumbling sounds. Bang bang bang! The demon blade and the heavenly insect avatar's arms heavily smashed against each other, causing terrifying air waves to spread in all directions. The surrounding space started to crumble inch by inch, forming numerous terrifying black holes. Stomp stomp stomp. The demon god and the illusory figure retreated at the same time. The might radiating from every step caused the surrounding space to violently tremble. Kill. Countless black chi transformed into strange human figures. Battle cries soared into the sky as they rushed towards the secret realm. However, just as they were about to make contact with the secret realm, they were blocked by a thick light barrier. An extremely powerful and sturdy defensive Yuan formation was set up outside the secret realm. Although there were many strange human figures, most of them were blocked by the light barrier. They were densely packed together, causing them to appear extremely numerous. Standing on the demon god's shoulder, Yarrow Dai also saw the terrifying number of strange human figures, causing her to frown slightly. However, she was extremely confident in the defensive strength of the light barrier. Therefore, she was not very worried. Instead, she continued to command the demon god to continue fighting with the heavenly insect avatar. Yarrow Dai, what's the point of you guarding this tomb for so long? That old bastard has already died. Why don't you submit to me and I won't touch a single one of your demon soldiers? The heavenly insect avatar said indifferently. Yarrow Dai sneered and said, You are delusional. Master treated me with great kindness. If it weren't for you, how could Master have died? You're already on my must-kill list. If it weren't for the fact that I'm not strong enough, I would have killed you already. Haha. Yarrow Dai, it's impossible for you to kill me. Since you're so stubborn, I'll capture you and destroy your demon soldier secret realm. At that time, all the demon soldiers will become my nourishment. The heavenly insect phantom laughed heartily. Rolling black gas gushed out, bringing with it an unparalleled force as it continuously blasted towards the demon god. The two enormous bodies continued to exchange blows in the void. The powerful energy shockwaves had the ability to shake the heavens and earth, causing the hearts of many demon soldiers to tremble. Mu Feng, open your mind and accept my power. Destroy this demon god in one fell swoop. Suddenly, the heavenly insect's voice rang out in Mu Feng's mind as he stood on the heavenly insect phantom, causing him to frown. Don't worry, I won't attack you. If I really wanted to attack you, would you still be alive? Perhaps it had guessed Mu Feng's worries. The heavenly insect added another sentence. All right. Mu Feng decisively nodded his head. Soon after, he opened his mind. Immediately, waves of black gas gushed into his body. His eyes were filled with a scarlet color. Merge into my projection. Mu Feng's mind shook as he nodded his head. Immediately, black gas gushed out from the heavenly insect phantom, wrapping around Mu Feng. At this moment, Mu Feng had become a medium for the heavenly insect avatar to transfer its power. Ow! The heavenly insect phantom roared as its body swelled several times. All 12 arms swept out simultaneously. However, the demon god was not afraid. The demon blade swept out, creating countless blade lights. Bang! The arms struck the demon blade. Immediately, Yarrow Dai was shocked to discover that the demon blade had actually shattered. Subsequently, the 12 arms clenched into fists and unceremoniously smashed onto the demon god's body. Puff! In an instant, the demon god's huge body completely collapsed. Nearly half of the demon soldiers had died. Not good. Yarrow Dai spat out a mouthful of blood. Stretching out her jade-like hand, a surge of demonic energy gushed out and pulled all the demonic soldiers that were still alive over to her. With a stomp of her foot, she retreated into the secret ground. Oh! You guys are pretty quick to escape. However, After breaking this restriction, all of you will die. The heavenly insect phantom coldly snorted. With a step, it arrived in the sky above the demon weapon secret realm. 12 fists came smashing down like meteors. Instantly, the light barrier that enveloped the secret realm violently trembled. However, this light barrier was extremely sturdy and did not show any signs of shattering. This restriction was set up by that old bastard. How troublesome. The heavenly insect phantom's expression was startled. His eyes revealed a cold intent as he threw out punch after punch, causing the entire demon weapon secret realm to violently tremble. Many demon soldiers within the secret realm trembled as fear rose in their hearts. Swoosh. After Yarrow Dai brought the remaining demon soldiers back to the secret realm, she landed on the mountain peak where Zhuowen and the rest were. Aunt Yarrow, how are you? Wu Dai stepped forward. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry as she looked at Yarrow Dai, who looked a little pale. Yarrow Dai waved her hand and forced a smile. Wu Dai, I am fine. The heavenly insect avatar is not far from breaking free. His strength is already very close to his peak. Boom, boom, boom. Another violent tremor came from the secret realm. Yarrow Dai revealed a bitter smile and said, "This restriction was set up by my master. Although its defense is extremely sturdy, I am afraid that it will not last for long." How long can it last? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Yarrow Dai was stunned. Soon after, she said in a deep voice, about a month. If the heavenly insect was at his peak, he might be able to destroy this restriction. However, that guy has not broken free and his strength is not that strong. He should be able to last for a month. A month? That should be enough. Zhuowen nodded. Soon after, he said to Yarrow Dai, "Senior Yarrow Dai, can you find a quieter place for me?" "Zhuowen, are you preparing to break through to the Emperor realm?" Lu Hantian suddenly asked. "Yes. If I break through to the Emperor realm, I might be able to deal with the heavenly insect avatar outside," Zhuowen said solemnly. However, Yarrow Dai frowned and said, "Are you kidding? Even if you break through to the Emperor realm, you will only be a first-level Great Emperor. The heavenly insect avatar is very powerful. I am afraid that ordinary 7th-level Great Emperors will not be able to deal with it. What is the use of breaking through to the Emperor realm?" However, Zhuowen shook his head and said, "Senior, you can set up a demon god formation. If the demon god formation has 2 7th-level Great Emperors, can it defeat the heavenly insect avatar?" Yarrow Dai was stunned and said, "I am a 7th-level Great Emperor. If there is another 7th-level Great Emperor to form the demon god formation, its power will be greatly increased. The heavenly insect avatar will not be a match for it. However, no one here has the strength of a 7th-level Great Emperor, right? If I break through to the Emperor realm, my fighting strength will be comparable to a 7th-level Great Emperor. If you are willing to believe me, why don't you wait until I break through to the Emperor realm?" Zhuowen suddenly said proudly. As soon as he said this, the entire mountain fell silent. Everyone stared at Zhuowen in a daze and fell into a state of speechlessness. Are you kidding? A first-level Great Emperor fighting strength comparable to a 7th-level Great Emperor? How is that possible? Yarrow Dai's gaze turned cold. She naturally did not believe Zhuowen's nonsense. This is the only way now. Regardless of whether you believe me or not, the heavenly insect avatar will completely break through to the secret realm in a month's time. At that time, the demon soldiers will face a calamity, Zhuowen said indifferently. Yarrow Dai's beautiful eyes flickered when she heard this. In the end, she nodded. She also knew that she had no other choice. She would wait until Zhuowen broke through to the Emperor realm. If he really had the fighting strength of a 7th-level Great Emperor, then even without them, the demon soldier's secret realm would cease to exist. Come with me. It is not that easy to break through to the Emperor realm. My palace was built by my master back then. It contains the law of time. The flow of time inside is 10 times faster than outside. Yarrow Dai glanced at Zhuowen indifferently. In the end, she agreed to Zhuowen's suggestion. With a wave of her hand, she led the few of them away from the mountain. In a short while, the group arrived at a hill. At the top of the hill stood a magnificent palace. This should be Yarrow Dai's palace. Let's go in, Yarrow Dai said casually. Then, she stepped into the palace. Zhuowen and the others naturally did not stand on ceremony and followed closely behind. The interior of the palace was elegantly decorated. There was a wisp of fragrance in the air. It was quite refreshing to smell it. The moment they entered the palace, Zhuowen discovered that it contained a wisp of the law of time. Although the law of time was much weaker than the three heavens and earth in the Azure Dragon Palace, it was still very good. After all, the law of time in the Azure Dragon Palace was too powerful. 1 year inside was 1 day outside. Yarrow Dai's palace was not so abnormal. 10 days inside was 1 day outside. I will arrange a room for you. I hope that you really have such strong fighting strength after breaking through. Otherwise, I will kill you before the heavenly insects come. Yarrow Dai glanced at Zhuowen indifferently. Then, she led Zhuowen into the depths of the palace alone. Wu Dai, Lu Hantian and the others stayed in the hall. Zhuowen has broken through to the Emperor realm. Can he really have the fighting strength of a 7th-level Emperor? Moyan Bai Yang asked doubtfully. He had never seen a cultivator who had the fighting strength of a 7th-level Emperor just after breaking through to the Emperor realm. Lu Hantian and the Lord of Tai Mo were just as confused as Moyan Bai Yang. I believe that what Master said is true. He is a dragon soul cultivator, Wu Dai said with a smile. Chapter 1274. 9 Dragons Devouring Stars Dragon Soul Cultivator? But even if it's a dragon soul cultivator, it shouldn't be that exaggerated, right? A 1st-level Emperor can rival a 7th-level Emperor? Moyan and Bai Yang were stunned at first, then said in disbelief. Wu Dai shook her head and smiled. You will know when Master breaks through. There's no point in guessing now. Hearing that, Moyan, Bai Yang and the others all nodded. Although they were doubtful of Zhuowen's words, there was no other method that they could use right now. They could only believe that Zhuowen would truly possess such powerful battle strength after breaking through. A clear sound of footsteps came from the depths of the palace. Yarrow Dai's graceful figure slowly appeared in front of everyone. The 3 of you can train in my bedroom or go out. Wu Dai, come with me. Yarrow Dai faintly glanced at Mo Yang and Bai Yang before she pointed at Wu Dai and said, Okay. Wu Dai nodded. She took a step forward and followed Yarrow Dai. Mo Yang and Bai Yang looked at each other and pondered for a moment. They decided to cultivate in Yarrow Dai's palace. After all, there was the law of time in her palace. Although there was only 1 month in the outside world, they had 10 months' worth of time in her palace. In a quiet room, Yarrow Dai slowly sat on a stone bench and silently glanced at Wu Dai. The latter's eyes flickered and she looked away. Wu Dai, Aunt Yarrow's life is coming to an end. I can't live for too long. After a moment of silence, Yarrow Dai suddenly spoke. Her voice was slightly low. What? Aunt Yarrow, are you lying to me? You're still so young and beautiful. How can your life be coming to an end? Wu Dai shook her head in disbelief. Yarrow Dai shook her head. Immediately, she beckoned with her jade-like hand and a white ball landed in her hand. She said, This contains all the inheritance that Aunt Yarrow has cultivated. Take it and study it. The heavenly insect phantasm is very powerful. In a month's time, the demon weapon secret realm will face a calamity. Fortunately, you appeared in time, so Aunt Yarrow's inheritance will not be broken. Auntie Yarrow, that won't happen. I believe that if Master really breaks through to the Emperor realm, his power will increase by hundreds or even thousands. By then, he'll be able to rival a level 7 Great Emperor, Wu Dai said hopefully. Yarrow Dai smiled bitterly when she saw Wu Dai's expression. She passed the ball to Wu Dai and said, Even if Zhuowen is as strong as a First Heaven Emperor, there will always be accidents. I'll pass the inheritance to you first. Also, take this key with you. If you really can't stop the heavenly worm's shadow, take this key and enter the forbidden area of the secret realm. The forbidden area is extremely hidden, and even the heavenly worm will have a hard time finding it. You just need to hide for a period of time. Once the heavenly worm escapes, you will be safe. As she spoke, Yarrow Dai took out another key and handed it to Wu Dai. However, her eyes were filled with determination, making it difficult for Wu Dai to refuse. Thus, she could only accept it. In a spacious stone room, there was a prayer mat in the center. Aside from that, there were 4 or 5 stone benches scattered around the room. Zhuowen sat on the prayer mat quietly. His eyes flickered as he said softly, "Xiao Hei, do you think I can successfully break through to the Emperor realm in these 10 months? A Xiao Hei dog hovered before him. It frowned slightly and asked, "How many hearts of imperial power do you have?" 12 in total, Zhuowen replied without any hesitation. That should be enough. The energy contained within 12 hearts of imperial power is extremely vast. You should know that a single heart of imperial power is enough to push a heavenly venerate cultivator directly to the Emperor realm. You have 12 of them, and you've cultivated in the Azure Dragon Hall for 10 years. You've accumulated enough. It's time for you to erupt. Xiao Hei nodded. Its eyes burned with passion. After all, once Zhuowen successfully broke through to the Emperor realm, it would completely materialize. Of course, Zhuowen looked forward to it even more than Xiao Hei. After all, ordinary cultivators could complete materialization at the 4 venerates level, but Xiao Hei, this monster, wanted to reach the Emperor realm. It was truly a trap. Let's begin. Zhuowen did not waste any time. With a flick of his finger, he took out all 12 hearts of imperial power from his spirit ring and let them revolve around him. Dense star energy spread out, lingering around Zhuowen. At the same time, Zhuowen formed a seal with his hands. All the pores on his body opened, and the star energy in the surroundings surged into his body in a spiral. Time flew. 29 days had passed in the outside world. In these 29 days, the heavenly insect's shadow constantly bombarded the defensive seal on the surface of the demon soldier secret realm, causing the secret realm to be in a constant state of trembling. It caused many demon soldiers to be on tenterhooks and their minds to tremble. Moreover, cracks began to appear on the surface of the seal. All the demon soldiers knew that the seal would not be able to hold on for much longer. At most, it could only hold on for 1 more day. Hence, many demon soldiers were filled with despair. In Yarrow Dai's palace, Yarrow Dai silently gazed at Wu Dai, who was sitting cross-legged and absorbing the white ball to cultivate. Her eyes revealed a trace of affection. In more than 9 months, Wu Dai's cultivation speed was indeed very fast. She had already broken through to the 2nd-rank Demon Emperor realm. She was not far from the 3rd-rank Demon Emperor realm. Moreover, because she had received Yarrow Dai's inheritance, Wu Dai's strength was actually very strong. She was almost comparable to a 4th-rank Demon Emperor realm expert. I should go out. I don't know if Zhuowen has really succeeded in breaking through. Even if he has, I'm afraid it won't be of any help. Yarrow Dai sighed softly. The smile at the corner of her mouth became even more bitter. She still did not believe in Zhuowen's bold words. Hence, she had already prepared a backup plan for Wu Dai. Slowly getting up, Yarrow Dai quietly left the room. Not long after Yarrow Dai left, Wu Dai, who was sitting cross-legged, slowly opened her eyes. Her beautiful eyes revealed a determined look. Boom! Suddenly, the entire demon soldier secret realm shook violently. A terrifying pressure suddenly spread throughout the secret realm. At this moment, it was as if the sky had collapsed, giving all the demon soldiers a terrifying pressure. Yarrow Dai, who was about to step out of the palace, stopped in her tracks. Her beautiful eyes stared at the depths of the palace. The pressure was coming from the depths of the palace. She muttered in a low voice, "Zhuowen has broken through?" Not only Yarrow Dai, but Mo Yang, Bai Yang, Lu Hantian and Grand Demon Lord also stood up. Their gazes fell on the depths of the palace. They could feel a powerful pressure that made their hearts tremble. It was as if they were facing an insurmountable mountain. "It's Zhuowen." The 3 of them looked at each other. At the same time, they thought of Zhuowen, who was in seclusion. "It's Master. Master is about to break through." In the room, Wu Dai suddenly stood up. Her beautiful eyes were filled with excitement. At the same time, all the demon soldiers in the secret realm felt the sudden pressure. Their hearts trembled, their legs trembled, and their eyes were filled with shock. What's going on? Why has such a terrifying pressure appeared all of a sudden? This was the same thought that appeared in the minds of countless demon soldiers. Even the phantoms of the heavenly insects that constantly bombarded the barrier and the countless strands of black chi stopped moving. Their actions were surprisingly uniform. They raised their heads and looked at Yarodai's palace in the secret realm. Boom! In the depths of the stone chamber, a deep hole suddenly exploded. A tall and straight figure slowly stepped out from the hole. Around him, there was endless dragon chi dissipating, as if 10,000 dragons were worshipping him. Quietly floating in the void, the figure raised his head to look at the sky. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Soon after, a pillar of light shot out from his body and soared into the sky. This pillar of light was like a fluorescent light in the darkness, illuminating the entire world. The already terrifying pressure became even more terrifying at this moment. If the pressure from before was like a hill, then the pressure that came crushing down now was equivalent to a 10,000 jong tall mountain. A huge crack appeared in the sky, revealing a resplendent starry sky. Above the starry sky, there was endless starlight. Strands of astral energy poured down from the pillar of light and fused into Zhuowen's body. At the same time, accompanied by the astral energy, 9 emperor stars slowly descended. Roar! To everyone's surprise, the 9 emperor stars were completely different from the emperor stars of ordinary cultivators. They were no longer spherical stars. Instead, they were 9 huge dragons. Each dragon was several thousand feet long, and each of the 9 dragons held a black star in their mouths. They were the emperor stars. 9 dragons swallow stars. No one had expected that the emperor star that Zhuowen descended after breaking through to the emperor realm would be so different. The emperor star was actually held by a huge dragon, as if it was being protected by 9 huge dragons. It looked extremely strange. Furthermore, the power that each of the 9 huge dragons displayed was enough to swallow mountains and rivers. Has this guy really broken through to the emperor realm? Why is his aura so terrifying? Yarodai was stunned. She rubbed her lips with her right hand. After a long while, she slowly said this. At the same time, she recalled what Zhuowen had said before. A first-level Great Emperor can fight a 7th-level Great Emperor. Perhaps Zhuowen is telling the truth. Yarodai's eyes shone brightly as she came back to her senses. She muttered to herself. Before, Zhuowen's words had no proof, so she naturally did not believe him. However, now that the phenomenon caused by Zhuowen breaking through to the emperor realm was so terrifying, she more or less believed him. At this moment, Zhuowen stepped out and stood on the 9 huge dragons. Then, he floated in the center of the 9 huge dragons. The 9 emperor stars in his mouth began to rotate with him as the center. Then, an earth-shaking dragon roar came from Zhuowen's body. It was like rolling thunder that resounded through the entire void. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.